This is Tim Rocco here, and this is Built Different. My next guest is somebody that I've used not only for my business, but for clients. And everybody knows how important credit is when buying a property or investing. Starting a business, it's very important to take credit very, very seriously. My next guest is Ryan Alexander from I Teach Credit. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you, brother.
Always good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. It's great to be here. It's been fun to watch you grow. And I think the first time I met you was the day you had your car accident.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever met you.
I was T-boned.
I didn't know who you were, but I knew you online, and I was like, oh, that's Tim. And
well, I would say that you were definitely the only person that really ran over to help, which says a lot about you. You know, I'm kind of the same way in those situations. Most people kind of back away. You know, you were right there making sure that, you know, I was okay. And if I needed anything, I think I was a little in a daze, but, you know.
And I didn't have a cell phone out recording you. Isn't that the best part?
Yeah. You know, you're supposed to record it like everybody else. If a fight's happening, something's happening, you can't help.
Wild.
You just got to watch the situation and try to get some followers or some views from it, right?
The world we live in today.
Definitely. So, you know, tell me a little bit how, you know, you came up, how you got started at a young age, you know, what type of business you started in?
Cool. So I got a really awesome life story. My first business was called the Duty Crew. My first business was the Duty Crew. I walked around and I picked up shit. I was like, man, what's a job that somebody really doesn't want to do that's not that bad? And I was sitting with a buddy. We were drinking beers, and I was like, man, like picking up shit, like what a simple job, but people just hate to do it. And we literally created a company called the Duty Crew on Saturdays. Might not want to share this part, but we would get in a truck and we would drink and drive around, pick up shit.
Not the driver.
Yeah, not the driver, of course. We would pick up shit, put it in a bag, and leave it by the door. And we would make like $300 in a day, working a couple hours. And then we would go out and drink all night long and have fun and be like, hey, we earned our right to do that. And I was like, man, my dad always told me, because my dad has a Christmas tree business, and he told me at an early age, he said, son, you can have anything in this world you want as long as you're willing to go out and work and earn it. And that was the best lesson I ever learned in life. And from then I was always like, yeah, having a job, you know, a lot of people, that's how their minds are wired, and that's what's good for them.
Definitely great advice. And whether you get it at a young age, which some of us didn't have parents giving us that kind of advice, but whether you get it at a young age like you did or later in life, as long as you put it to work, it'll pay off.
Absolutely. And that's how I got into sales, because I was able to sell these people on this stuff. And, you know, also in that time frame, I got into commercial real estate at 19. 9/11 happened. Everything I was
Now, when you say commercial real estate, are we talking sales? Are we talking, you know, mortgages? What are we talking?
So obviously in this area, we have like Wawa, we have Walgreens, we have Redner's, we have supermarkets.
Now Sheets
like
is coming in.
They're trying. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It was funny because when Royal Farms came in, they said, "Oh, Royal Farms." I'm like,
yeah, it was a
never
bust.
like Wawa's not going to.
It's not good. I tried it.
Wawa will not be dethroned.
No,
but I did at 19, 20, 21. I went out and researched the real estate. So back then, we didn't have the internet like we do now. We actually had to drive townships, literally with a legal pad. Right down an intersection.
Now, was that in a horse and buggy, or do we have cars?
Well, we did actually have cars at that point in time. I mean, we didn't have jets and mobiles, but
yeah.
I would go out there and just research properties, and I would write down, like, this is on this corner here, like, this is the northeast section, this is the southwest section, and I would literally write it down. Then I'd go to a township, and I'd have to look at tax maps, which people are like, what the hell is a tax map? I would look at tax maps and say, okay, this is the intersection, and I would figure out how many parcels there were, and then we would assemble so that we could either put a Wawa, a Walgreens, or a supermarket shopping center. And I was 60 days away from a multi-six-figure payday. 9/11 happened, and everything I was working on came to a screeching halt. And that's when I learned, like, right then, like, life's not fair.
So you were boots on the ground. You did all the research. Then you brought it to the office, and then I guess the team worked on it. And in a perfect situation, you know, you would present this to one of these big companies, and they would make the purchase.
Yep.
But then, obviously, I remember where I was during 9/11. I think most people do.
Yep.
I was out doing estimates, and that my whole day changed, you know. I ended up just going home for the day. You probably have a similar story to that, you know. So basically everything went bust for you at that point. And what was your mindset?
So I was also bartending at the time. And what I was learning was, again, Put yourself in the right room with the right people. Learn from people who are doing better than you. Thinking back about my dad, I knew nobody was going to hand me the golden ticket, right? There was no Willy Wonka ticket for me. I had to earn my way out of it. So while I was bartending, I was like, okay, all these people are still doing well. They're still playing golf. They're still drinking. What's everybody do? Majority of them were in the insurance business. So I thought, okay, let me learn about the insurance business. Started with life and health insurance. And who wants to buy life insurance from a 22-year-old? Nobody does. I was a young kid, minimal responsibilities, whatever. But I looked at home and auto insurance. I'm like, wow, every single one of those cars out there needs to have auto insurance. And everybody with a mortgage has to have homeowner's insurance. Let me figure out how to sell that. That was easy because I paid for car insurance and I was trying to figure out how to save money. Paid off all my debt, which was great. And then from there, somebody said, oh, you should get into mortgages because you can make a lot more bigger money. That was 2007. We know what happened 2007.
Yeah.
So everything I was working on, my first month selling mortgages, I was cold calling. I was given a stack. I felt like I was in boiler room or whatever. I had a stack of numbers to call. I had 10 deals under contract or 10 loans in the pipeline my first month. The guy said, you're allowed to take a break. I said, I don't have any money. I don't have any money to take a break. I need to make money. That was when the countrywide thing and everything else in the mortgage law fell apart. So I lost everything again.
So 2 times, right? First 9/11, then 2007, 2008. You know, you had great ideas. You started making money and, you know.
But wait, there's more.
The hammer dropped.
Then I go to invest in a company. I create an idea for a company. I had a startup idea. They told me to bootstrap it. Bought the domain IGotAGuy.com. Paid $10,000 for it. They told me bootstrap it, build out. I was building out a local business directory. Yeah, I can't compete with the Yellow Pages. I couldn't compete with Verizon. I couldn't compete with Angie's List. I didn't figure it out because they told me to bootstrap it. If I would have hired somebody, I would have been better off.
Yeah.
While that happened, I got into another internet marketing company, started working, doing internet stuff, and I had another idea for an app idea. Got investors. This company we hired, local company, I won't mention the name, they said we can build that app. It was technology that wasn't even used. Back then when Rovio came out with Angry Birds, I created an idea for an app. Long story short, they said they could build the technology. They couldn't. Lost everything for a third time. So what'd I do? I went back to
3 strikes.
That's 3 strikes.
Most people would give up at that point, but even after, you know, the first time, you know, certain circumstances, a second time, now a third time, and you still, in your mind, said, I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm not going to get a job, a regular job somewhere, right? And you know, you had this vision of, you know, doing big things.
I knew in my mind at that point in time, I'm like, you can knock me down, but you will not fucking keep me down. And, you know.
It's a great attitude.
You're in martial arts as well. So, like, you know, you might get knocked down.
I like being on the ground.
Well, in your style, I know when you're fighting.
That's my specialty.
Right.
So, you know, obviously I can stand up with you, but if we go to the ground, I'm safe there too. But I hear you. You know, you got to get up. You got to keep pushing forward is what it comes down to.
I did. And the best part was every time I lost, I learned something. Okay, well, don't do this. Or if you're going to do this, maybe it was my timing. Maybe I didn't work hard enough, long enough, and maybe that was the problem. If I would have stayed in commercial real estate, who knows how much I'd be worth right now. I wouldn't be here, right? And so the world takes you in certain directions in your life for certain reasons. I also wouldn't be in a position to impact the amount of people that I'm impacting now because being broke down and out 3 times, I had no credit. And the credit that I did have was so bad that for 5 years, I couldn't get approved for anything until, ironically, one night, things are starting to rebound, and I'm sitting watching a Facebook ad.
Well, I think partly
everything changed.
I think you're jumping some things that probably happened, right? You know, I know that in your 30s, right? How old are you now?
I'm 48.
Oh, you're a little older than me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 39.
We were around the same age, but I think you're jumping some steps. You did work some jobs to do what you had to do, right? Like in your 30s.
In my 30s, and I know exactly what you're talking about. In my 30s, when I crashed and burned the second time, I was in such a bad way that I humbly had to go back to a golf course, and I caddied at Squires Golf Course, which many people know who Squires is. Squires is like one of the most elite courses around. It's a men's only club, and it's like the top who's who private club you can have. And I carried bags for a whole year. People are like, what are you doing here? Like literally the other caddies are like, why are you here? Like in the conversations I would have, the members would say to me, what the hell are you doing carrying bags? I'm like, I lost my shirt twice.
Yeah.
And I was on my way to the third time. But like,
but you were doing what you had to do to survive, where I think people have this mentality where they think that any job or certain jobs are too good for them, right?
Yeah.
But I could tell you that I would do whatever I have to do. You know, if I had to work at Walmart, if I had to do something, I would do it. Where, you know, I've run into people, I need a job, and you offer them a job, and they're like, I'm not going to do that. Well, but
why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with mindset. You know, they have this mentality that, you know, they're better than that. They're looking for this perfect job that doesn't necessarily exist, and they're not willing to get their hands dirty. Everybody wants to start at the end, but you have to start at the finish line. You have to build up to that.
Yeah.
There's no cheat code. Some people get lucky, right?
Some people do get lucky.
Some people get lucky.
That's an anomaly. That's not the norm. That is the exception, not the rule.
And it's easy with where we are in a society to look at social media and be like, oh, he's doing it. I would. But they don't see the work that went into him getting there.
See, I think that's why they struggle, because they're afraid for other people to see them stocking shelves. They don't want to see them driving Uber or DoorDash. They don't want to see them doing a job that is below them. Like, I mean, I'm sure you see this. How many people won't take a job because it's below what they think they're worth? But 6 months later, they're still waiting for that job to pay them what they're worth.
Yeah, meanwhile, that could have been 6 months of saving to put it into something that you want to do.
Or not 6 months of drowning and going lower and lower. At least you could have held your head above water versus...
I totally agree. 100%. I've stopped to give, you know, there's guys on Roosevelt Boulevard close to the Home Depot at Adams Ave, and they would stand out there. And my office used to be down there for the construction company. We would go to Home Depot all the time. Stop. Hey, why don't you show up tomorrow? I'll give you a job. How many of them do you think showed up? The answer is 0.
I would say less than 10%.
They never show up, but the next day they're out there.
Wow. Sad.
So to me, maybe you start as a laborer, and maybe in 6 months, you're a carpenter's helper. Maybe in a year, you're a carpenter. Maybe in 2 years, you're the head carpenter.
And in 4 years, you're employing 3 or 4 people.
Exactly. But people do not want to put in the work. They're not even willing to, you know, call me and ask a question that could better them because they feel, you know, like they're going to be judged, or, you know, they don't want that judgment. But judgment's okay.
Yeah.
You don't know that person's even going to judge you.
People living better than you most likely will never judge you. It's people that are not doing as well. And if they're people that do judge you, they're not people you want in your fucking life anyway.
No. And
that's my personal opinion.
I totally agree. And the people that talk the most about other people are usually not in a great situation. But they're so quick to give advice, bad advice, because they've never done it. They can't even show you the way if they tried. You know?
Ready to sit down? I think this could go for like 4 hours.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
I'm just kidding.
It's all good conversation.
No, it is.
So you caddied for how long?
I caddied for like a year. It was probably a year, maybe almost a year and a half. And
that's not an easy job. I mean, you're carrying around people's bags. But I'll bet you talk to some really good people that probably taught you some things, I would think.
So it's really funny looking back on that, which is really wild because I didn't expect to go down this path. But when I think back to caddying, here's the coolest part about it. I learned to, I don't know if you've ever read any of David Goggins' books.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge reader. I listen to podcasts and stuff like that, but...
I'll be totally honest. Yeah. I listened to the book. I didn't read it because I don't have the patience or
More
attention. My brain goes right off the page.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I'm with you there.
So, but the cool thing is when I was caddying, I embraced the suck. I was like, I'm carrying bags. I was as fit as could be. And I used to look at like, if I can mentally handle this, what else can I mentally handle? Which is why I do cold plunges today. You saw me swimming in the snow yesterday. You know,
I think every time it snows, I see you doing something.
I do it because people expect it, right?
Of course.
But people think I'm crazy. And it's like, I'm not that crazy. The difference is I'm willing to embrace temporary discomfort for permanent gain. And when you look, I looked at caddying and I was like, to your point, I was at a place where I knew I was around some of the wealthiest people. Thinking back on it, there was a guy named Steve. I won't say his last name, but I'll never forget him. He opened his bag and he had a black card. and I never saw it before. And at the time, that was back when it was like a hard titanium card or whatever it was. And I remember being like, what is that card? And they're like, oh, it's a limitless credit card and, only the ultra wealthy. And I'm like, that's who I'm carrying bags for? Like, at least maybe if I rub elbows with him, maybe a few of his brain cells might rub into mine.
Yeah.
Years later, now I have a credit consulting business teaching all throughout the country on multiple podcasts, helping hundreds and thousands of people. And it's all because I just kept marching. So like on the golf course, when I was tired, I kept walking. When I was hot, I just kept walking. When I was cold, because there was days it was raining and it was cold, I just kept walking. And then I took that and everything else in life. When sales sucked, I just kept calling, right? When I was tired, I just kept pushing. When I didn't know what to do, I just kept creating videos. You just keep going.
Keep showing up.
Until one day, you're like, whoa, look at how far I've come. Like you talk about, here's the starting line, here's the finish line. Everybody wants to get here. You don't have to get here on day one. You just got to go from here to here and here to here. And once you get to that first step, you're like, wow, if I can do this, I'll either figure out how to get there or I'll just hang out with other like-minded individuals who can help get me there. And that's why I love hanging out with people like you, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely.
It was a tough walk, but we got here.
Well, that's the thing. You got to be willing to take the walk, right? And your story is nothing short of that. You easily could have said, this isn't for me. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to, keep putting myself through this, because whether you're in real estate, insurance, you're really building your own business. You're not an employee, right? Your sales, that's your pay. So you have to work, you have to build a brand, you have to build a business that people want to deal with. And, you kept pushing forward, and now, you started I Teach Credit, which everybody's sharing now, right? Let's be honest. All the local realtors are calling you, please come talk at this event, please, because they see value in you, right? And we've talked about this many times. We've had phone conversations, out to dinner, and you're building a great brand, both in our area, but also, like you said, across the world with the reach that we now have with social media. It puts you in many different places. And speaking from experience, I've always kept good credit. I've always made sure that my credit was good. I've had all the credit cards, right? The basic credit cards. But after having a conversation with you, and you came to my office, within, I don't even think, maybe 2 minutes, you got me certain business cards that I wouldn't even have known. I wouldn't even have known what card to go with. And with that, I keep putting in numbers, and it doesn't say there's a limit. I haven't got, and obviously I'm not putting in crazy numbers. I'm putting in realistic numbers that I may use for my business, but I attribute that to you.
And I appreciate that. And that's the funny thing about it. Everybody thinks that I only help people with bad credit. I'd rather help people with good credit, maximize that profile. It's really hard. And that's where I was joking when I was saying to Matt earlier. I said, think about this. I built a multi-six-figure company in a world where people have shit credit, no credit cards, and lots of debt and no money.
Yeah.
And I still managed to build. And that was because what I was able to figure out is there's people that make great money and have shit credit scores. So if I can help figure out how to solve their problem, or take people with great credit scores who just don't know how to maximize it, like the doctor in Dallas that flew me down there, I boosted his profile, not his score. His scores were already 800. But he's like, I'm using this one card. And I said, okay, tell me about your business. Every person's situation is a different Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
And my job is to solve the Rubik's Cube to provide more value. I provided such value for him in 1 month. He said, you're a genius. I'm not a genius. I just know my shit because I have studied it, right? How many people have bought courses or bought books on money outside of like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or maybe Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich? Outside of that kind of stuff, how many people invest money in their FICO scores?
Yeah.
Versus how many fucking guys spend countless hours on their fantasy football stats, but their FICO scores suck.
Yeah.
What's more important? What's going to give you a better return long term?
I mean, to me, credit. And I will say this, I was always in the high sevens, never really broke the 800s, and I can tell you now, I think I'm an 830, and that's just with changing the cards and how I use them, and that's all you. I mean, show me that. I'm still not great with using the points, but I think that's because they're just stacking, but I'm too busy, and I haven't really. I've utilized. I got a free hotel stay the one time. But the points are stacking, and I can use them, and that's another conversation we'll definitely have in the future. But I attribute that score going up so much to what you changed and what you showed me.
And I love that you give me the credit, and I'm going to flip this back on you and say this: doesn't matter what I teach you. Education without execution is just an added time sucking waste in life and an added expense. So many people that I have taught have done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But the people like you who actually say, hey, he said to do this, let me just do that.
If you just do one thing.
Was there anything I taught you that was really, really difficult to implement?
No, I wouldn't say it was rocket science, but
no.
I look at it this way, and I don't care, what business you're in, whether it's construction, real estate, lending. When you listen to people that have done the research or the work, and they're giving you a tool, in my opinion, you take that tool and you put it in your tool belt, and you use it when the time comes. So many people I don't know if they don't listen. Like they listen, but they're listening to speak. They're not listening to learn. And when you learn and you have that tool in your tool belt, and you can say, oh, look at my new tool. It's going to make this job easier. You have to utilize that.
And it can be as simple as a flathead screwdriver or a hammer. Doesn't have to be a bulldozer or power saws or any of that other stuff. Sometimes my old mentor, the commercial real estate guy, and he and I are still greatest of friends and family. He always said it's the blocking and tackling. It's the foundation of all, of what you do. That is what's going to help propel you forward, right? When you understand the basics, do the basics really, really well. Bruce Lee talking about being able to throw one punch and then throwing that one punch perfectly, practicing it 1,000 times. That's what's helped me, right? It's not about having the best podcast, the greatest lighting. Like I always remember Ty Lopez here in my garage. Like that video was shot on probably like an iPhone 2 or whatever it was. But look where he's gone from that, right? Whether he faked it until he made it or if he was already there at that point and he grew it, it's about just showing up and just taking those tools and implementing it. And they don't have to be highly sophisticated tools or highly sophisticated, credit equations. No. Pay your credit cards to zero every single week. Learn how the system works. Learn what banks to grow with. Where do you spend the most money? Like, that's just where starting at zero, I learned all that, and that's what helped lead to the success.
I mean, and I'm sure you probably see this a lot, but you'll see people that are worried about buying a sale. I'm getting a deal, but then they don't pay their credit card off, and then you're paying interest. Did you get a deal? No. Like, I see it all the time. They're like, oh, I got to buy this. And I'm like, are you going to pay it off? Well, no, I'll pay it. I'm like,
it's 50% off, but I'm going to pay it for the next 5 years at 29% interest. Was that really a deal?
Yeah. Like, did you really have to have that?
Yeah.
Like people,
I see it all the time.
People, there's so many wants. And again, you can say social media. If you click on one thing on Amazon or anywhere, you're getting bombarded with it. You want that hammer. And then 2 minutes later, hey, here's that hammer again.
Yeah.
And people, they'll buy it because it's in their face. The marketing is working, but it's better to be uncomfortable for 12 months to be comfortable for the rest of your life.
Right? Like, so here's what's funny. You do really well for yourself, right?
I do.
You're wearing a simple outfit.
Yeah.
I wear the same branded shirt or sweatshirt, right? Underneath, shirt, sweatshirt, whatever, right? Here's what's funny about that. My wife and I, just 2 weeks ago, we were in Florida. We're walking through a bar, and our server comes up to me. She goes, are you the guy on TikTok? And I'm like, everybody's on TikTok. She goes, no, you're the credit guy on TikTok. And I said, maybe. How do you know? She goes, my friend said she watches you every single day, and she recognized your shirt. It's a $9 fucking T-shirt, maybe $15, after
Inflation.
But the next day, we're walking through the airport, and my wife starts laughing. I said, what are you laughing at? She goes, I'll tell you when we get outside. We're walking out of the American Express lounge. And I said, what was so funny? She goes, there was a guy in there. She says, oh, I know that guy. I follow him every single morning. Watch. That's branding. Most people aren't willing to put themselves out there because some people, they'll make fun of me. Yeah. Some people, they'll talk about my fucking hairline. Some people, they'll say, oh, he's not that handsome, or look how old he is, or hey, Unc. I don't give a
You
fuck.
can't listen. You can't please everybody,
Nope.
right? And as many people are judging you, there's going to and you might only see those comments because they're the people that comment.
Yep.
They got nothing going on in their life, and they're so quick to comment, right? It's the people you don't see that appreciate what you do, right? Because they may not have the time. They may be just as busy as you. They don't have time to give you a compliment. But as you're going through, it's amazing, and I'm sure you get the same thing of how many people will call me, construction guys, real estate people. Hey, man, I just want to say I appreciate what you do. I aim to do what you're doing. Can you tell me, would you mind having lunch? And I always take these lunches because I love talking to people and learning from them. And listen, branding is so important. You know, I put my face everywhere. You know, you go on Wawa in the morning, I'm right there, you know.
But why not, right? Like, why would you not do that? Because if somebody sees you, they're like, oh, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's happened to me. Like, oh, you're the guy. It happened to me at the airport when we didn't lose a bag. A bag didn't make the flight. I walked in and this kid who's like 18 or 19 years old comes out. He goes, yo, you're the guy on TikTok. And I looked at him and here he was watching me on his phone.
Yeah.
That's branding.
Absolutely.
And that's why branding to me, like you were talking about, like, you know, getting in insurance or real estate, you are the brand. It is not, you know,
It doesn't
Remax.
matter.
It is not Weichert. It is not State Farm. You are the brand.
Absolutely.
And
You're
I
the
learned that
face.
early, thankfully, but people are afraid to brand themselves because they're afraid of being made fun of.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part, but it's amazing how many people that may not be afraid, but they don't want to set part of that paycheck aside to go towards it.
Sure.
I mean, I've spent, and it's funny because I've had my construction company it'll be 22 years this May.
No
right?
kidding.
And I can tell you in the beginning, you know, there was the yellow book, but you're in there with a million people, and you pay it first just because. But my whole business became referral based and word of mouth, which was super good. It kept me busy all these years, but also I was flipping houses, so that worked for me. I could tell you in 1 year of real estate, I've spent more branding and advertising than 22 years in construction.
Did it pay off?
It absolutely pays off, right? And I could certainly do that with the construction, but I like the way they work together at this point, and I don't necessarily have to do that with the construction. I certainly could blow it up and put it everywhere, but
Chris, if you just show up today in the construction world, you can't even get people to show up, let alone know what the hell they're doing.
absolutely. But I get calls for estimates all the time, and I'm not pushing it everywhere.
How did you get started in the construction world? Because I think it's interesting that you have one outfit that is a construction guy who I've seen you will dig ditches, you'll do whatever the hell, you'll build whatever. And then on the other side, you're out showing properties and, you know, you're not a glamorous realtor, but like you literally do both sides of the spectrum. How did you get started in construction and then what led you to get into real estate?
I mean, so my family they opened up a roofing company when I was around 9 or 10 years old. We lived in Philadelphia, and they blew up and became like one of the biggest roofing companies at the time in the 90s. And so from that age on, I was going on roofs. I was watching the guys, and you know, my uncle was a carpenter, and so everybody in my family was kind of in construction in some way.
Tradesman.
So at 15 years old, I would go with my stepfather and on estimates, and he taught me the whole process. And I was already going on roofs and doing roofs. So at 15, he would say, hey, you go in and sell this one. So we'd look at the job. I'd go in the house. I would talk to the people, and I'd come out with a signed contract. And what I learned was that I would educate the people. And I wasn't like every other roofer that came through the door, you know, rough around the edges. You know, flat roofers are different than, you know, county roofers. And I had a different approach to it. And I would sit there and I would educate them on what I was going to use, how I was going to do it, what the warranty looked like, and what they had to do to maintain it. And they would always say to me, you look so young. And I would say, age is just a number. And I had all the answers for it, and I did really well with it. And so I was selling and doing jobs from 15, you know, on. And it just kind of, so what kind of changed was I worked for them, and oddly enough, I had hurt my back, and I looked in the paper, and there was an ad that Gary Barberis was hiring for a salesperson. So I said, well, I can't work right now. Oddly enough, I've always had a bad back.
I was going to say you still do.
I still do. I've had procedures done. So I went in for an interview, and they were like, you got the job. When do you want to start? I said, I'll start tomorrow. There was not much time left in the month, but I ended up selling 11 cars. And it was the weirdest thing because all of these grown men, and this was 2000, 2001, something like that. These guys would stand on the hill and they would say, do you want to take the customer? Do you want to take the customer? And I was already down there taking the customer. I'm like, what are we doing here? There was no system in place. First come, first serve.
Wow.
So
you didn't have a rotation. It was whoever's hungriest went and got the...
And they would sit and like, oh, I'm not taking that one. Because they would pull up in,
a jalopy.
A beat up hoopty, if you will. And I would run right down. I had this thing, you don't judge a book by its cover.
Nope.
You don't know. And oddly enough, I would sell them the car. And then they were mad at me for taking the customer. So that first month I did 11. And that was with real no knowledge of how it worked. The second month I sold 34 cars. I went out to my truck. They flattened my tires.
Wait, your other coworkers? The other sales guys?
Yeah. Yeah. So I go back in there the next morning. I have a talk with my manager. And at the early morning meeting, I said, let me tell you something. If somebody touches my car again, I'm going to beat you with a bat. That's literally what I said. The managers didn't say a word. And, within 9 months, I was a sales manager, and then I was a finance manager. And, I kind of got burned out being stuck there. Because as a salesman that's selling, you could pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can leave whenever you want. And so I went up to the owner, and I said, hey, I'd like to talk to you. And he goes, it's Columbus Day. Talk to me tomorrow. And I took my name tag off, and I said, hey, I just wanted to tell you thanks for the opportunity. It was nice talking to you. And he was like, and I shook his hand, and I left. Because nobody was going to talk to me that way.
Yeah.
I have value. And they offered me money to come back, and I just said, no, I'm good. And at that point, I decided that I was going to start an exterior company, gutters. That was what I was going to do. I bought the machine, bought the truck, and I started the business. Meanwhile, I bought my first duplex. And with that duplex, my father-in-law, he wasn't my father-in-law at the time, owned an electrical business. But he was kind of like a jack of all trades. He knew how to do plumbing, electrical, all the, different processes. So I bought this duplex, and obviously I was dating at the time, my wife. And he helped me remodel the apartment, that we were going to live in. And so just from watching him, I learned so much. And, I kind of transitioned the exterior business into a full, general contracting business. And with that, I ended up buying another house a couple blocks away that we were going to move into. And he helped me. My uncle showed me some things. And it just kind of changed into what it is today. So, and that's kind of how it all started, and it evolved, right? We were just doing gutters, and then we were doing roofs, then we were doing siding, then we were doing windows, then we were doing doors, and then we were doing all the interior work. I learned how to do plumbing, and I was on the jobs more then, but it just kind of grew. It took time. And that's what I always say, people aren't willing to put the time in.
But like anything else, if you put the time in, you can get that result. Like, that's a fantastic, awesome story, because how many people look at your life right now and they're like, oh, must be nice.
Yeah.
But they didn't see you. They didn't see you when you were electrocuting yourself.
Yeah,
or
they didn't see me going, in the office at 6 and not coming home at 8, full of soot, just totally dirty, blowing, black shit out of your nose. And, it was a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice. But with every job, I learned something. And if somebody said, hey, do you do this? So my slogan for the construction company is, yeah, we do that. Because people would call me, hey, do you do this? Yeah, we do that. Hey, do you do this? So I would get a call. I want to cut this huge brick wall out. Did I ever cut a huge brick wall out? No.
Well, now you got the information at your fingertips. I'll guarantee you, you could Google or YouTube it.
Yeah. So,
and you did this before.
But part of that is I would call an engineer. Hey, this is what we need to do. What's the steps? And then I would research it. Sure enough, we would take that whole wall out. And so I just kept growing the business, and it was because I had no fear. I still, balls to the wall. I have no fear. What's the job? How can we do it? What tool do I need to buy? Right? Whatever I needed, I would get. And that's just kind of how it grew to what it is. So, obviously with having the real estate now, the brokerage, and having the title company and the construction company, most agents out there want to say, I'm the go-to agent. I can do this, I can do that. But they don't have my experience. They just don't. There's a select few that can probably say it, but not many in our area that can say that they have the experience. They'll say, I got a guy, right? I am the guy, right? And that's the difference.
So, and I think the cool thing about that is, how do people learn that you're the guy? Branding.
Absolutely.
You post, like, it's not about like, hey, I closed this many deals this month. No, it's like, hey, when you're looking to buy a house, this is something you want to look at.
Yeah.
Right? Like for me with credit, it's the same thing. Like, can I share and show the shiny object all the time? Of course I can. That's the carrot that sucks people in, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody just wants to see the Amex cards, the Chase Sapphire cards, or maybe now even the new Built card. And now that they came out with these mirror cards, I feel more, pretentious than ever, because it's like, oh, you fucking now you want to look at yourself in a mirror while you're holding your credit card? But it's a credit card that I can pay my mortgage. And just being able to talk about that, like, hey, did you know you could actually pay your mortgage with a credit card that does not charge you a processing fee of 3.5%, where you can actually pay your credit card or pay your mortgage with a credit card and earn points to travel more for free? That's teaching. Yeah. That's education. Yeah. How did I learn that? A lot of fucking research, watching a lot of content, and producing content that people can learn from, which is why you probably are so successful in the construction as well as the real estate world, because you're educating. And if you educate while branding, instead of just saying, look at me, like I never want it to be look at me.
Yeah.
It's, hey, look at me, but learn how I got here. And here's how I got to here. Let me teach you those steps. But a lot of people, they don't care about this shit. Yeah. They just want to see that. Yeah, and if that's not easy, on to the next, get rich quick thing, or the next person that's going to make fake false promises that you don't know. Yeah. And I mean, that's the crazy thing in today's world. But I think that's an awesome story of you putting in the work. And
you have to put in the work, and you can't be afraid of it. Things are going to come up. Not everybody's going to be 100% happy. Sometimes you're going to have a client or a customer that, you just don't see eye to eye with. And no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. But you have to care about your name. And sometimes you got to do more than you want to do just to keep that name, right? And there's times where it is what it is. I make her happy, whatever she wants, make her or him happy. Because at the end of the day, I care about my name.
Yeah.
It has
I do
to
too.
matter.
And that's the thing. I think many people, they care about their name, but I think they care more about their face front image versus their online, or like their long-term reputation. Like for me, we've had this conversation, like I never want somebody to have a conversation behind my back saying that guy Ryan Alexander is an asshole. Like,
may still happen.
It might still happen, right? Especially because in the world, right, like I post a lot of things online like, hey, like if I'm paying your bill, you shouldn't tell me how things should fucking go. I'm a firm believer in that. But if I'm paying your bill, I'm happy to pay that bill if I know I can help you and I know it's helping you because you needed help, not because you choose to sit on your ass and be lazy, right? Like with the younger generations, how do you motivate people? Like what made you so motivated as a young person to take action? Would you say you're just wired that way? Were you backed up against the wall where you didn't have a choice? Because, I mean, I had this conversation with you and Bill. Like, you guys lived in a world where you could have gone a very different way. I grew up in an environment where I could have gone a very different way, and I chose this way. What do you think was the contributing factor? And how do we help the younger generations do the same thing or do more of that?
Oddly enough, I came from a very weird household. My mom ended up being very successful in the roofing business. But again, she didn't invest. She didn't do things to better that. She'd buy knickknacks and statues, stuff that honestly, it's a waste of money, right? You could buy nice things, but don't spend all your money on it, right? But I always had the ability to look to people that were doing things, and I would try to get information out of them. I would learn from them. I was in high school, and there was this guy, and he cleaned carpets. I went and cleaned carpets with him, and I would listen to what he had to say. I worked at an auto auction, and Capital Auto Auction in Philly when I was 16, I think. And right away, I became like one of the top because wherever I was, I said, I'm going to rise to the top. Whatever I'm doing, I want to be the best at it. How do I do that? I practice. I look at what needs to get done, and I make sure I get it done. Where people want to go hide behind the cars, they want to go eat. No. How do we make this more efficient? How do we get it done? And so that was always my drive, right? I want to be the best at whatever I do. And so I would learn and I would ask questions and, I would take what they told me. And we talked about this earlier, putting that tool in my tool belt. And that's what I would do. I would say, that's great information.
Yeah.
And I didn't always do everything perfectly. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But that's not what's going to define you. Push through. Everybody's going to have an opinion on what you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
But the only opinion that really matters is my own, right? Am I putting out a good product? Do I care about what I'm doing? How am I being perceived? How can I do better by my clients, right? And that's having the knowledge, the experience, right? When I first started, I learned how to do roofing. I laid roofs with the guys. I knew about the product. I knew how to explain it. I knew why it was better than the product they were using.
It's actually awesome to watch as I can see mentally you're going back to where you were then. It's cool. I always say never forget where you came from because where you are now is a result of what you've built from the day you started until this very moment. And this very moment for you right now may be the day you start building. And that's the cool thing about with this podcast is that somebody might be listening to this in a really bad position or situation. And hearing your story, you went from being nothing and being an employee to being the owner of multiple companies and now the host of a podcast. That's a pretty fucking cool story. And you're young. So imagine even if you're older.
Are we young?
So, I mean.
I start to question it, But.
So I used to think when I was in my 20s, I'll never forget my one of my best friends, their sister, they were older by only 4 or 5 years. But when they broke 30, I was like, oh man, that's old. Yeah. And then they broke 40 and I was like, oh man, that's really old. But then I was like, I'm only 4 or 5 years younger. I'm like, and they're really not that old. I hit 40 and I'm like, man, I still have so much life to live. I'm just now halfway through and I still feel young. I didn't get married till I was 45. Yeah. And 2 months before I got married, I was jumping off of cliffs in Bermuda. And my wife was so mad at me. But I'm like, look, I just saw all those kids. And she's like, you're not a kid. But as long as I could still do it, and I did it, I still feel young, and I continue to feel young, which is why...
I think a lot of it is mental, right?
Agreed.
I think it's how you take care of yourself. Health is wealth, right? I'm a big proponent of working out and lifting and staying strong, keeping my joints strong. It definitely hits different in your 40s, and anybody who tells you it doesn't is just lying.
Oh, so you have to stretch now every morning too?
Whether it's stretching or just not being able to push the same way, it's totally different. And my uncle was a bodybuilder, and he used to always say, "You're in your prime. You're in your prime." And I'm like, nothing's ever going to stop me. But age does stop you. But you have to. It's like anything else. You got to keep pushing through, even when. I went through something like a year or two ago where my joints were just hurting. I couldn't even put up 20-pound dumbbells. Did I stop going to the gym? No. I kept showing up.
Even if it's 5 pounds?
I just kept moving and moving. Went to doctors, and oddly enough, I got better. And now, I'm putting up real weight again. But it's more for longevity. I got nothing to prove at this point, right? In your 20s and 30s, you're like, full of piss and vinegar, right? And you're going to, and obviously with jiu-jitsu, and I would do super fights and tournaments and, but even with jiu-jitsu, practice that move. Like you said, Bruce Lee, you want to practice an armbar 1,000 times before you can even consider yourself good at it. It's a hard sport. You're going to be put in positions that you don't want to be in. There's going to be a guy that's 200 pounds heavier of you sitting on you. Nothing you can do. I don't care. It's, you're going to be in those positions. And, you'd be surprised how many people aren't willing to just tap and restart. But
I also respect the guy that's not willing to tap and is willing to keep fighting, because you brought up something that's really interesting to me is when you got hurt. And this is a painful topic for me just because I see it so much and I get pissed off. The number of people that live on permanent disability, and I see them out golfing. I see them out fishing. I see them out shopping. I see them, parading around at an Eagles game. That pisses me off because we're paying for that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder what makes some people continue to fight or say, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't lift 200 pounds on a bench press, but I'll go pick up a 20-pound dumbbell or go do whatever. Like, what do you think is the biggest differentiating factor in that? Because that's something that drives me, like, I get mad.
I think it could be a crutch, or two, they're taking advantage of the system, right? But what are they doing? Are they working at all? No. Right? They don't have any drive. So they're happy getting this fixed income, right? So they can live the life they want to live. To me and you, that's not our life. We want to succeed. We want to build, right? We want to educate. They don't have that.
And even if you don't want to do big, you can still do something.
You can, but maybe they weren't making it and they don't have the drive or even, want to do better, right? There's way too many people doing that stuff, right?
Well, I had a guy who, this was relatively recent, and I posted a video on it. He's a client of mine. He's like, I'm in all this trouble. I'm in financial trouble and all this other stuff. And I said, okay, it's, again, question after question after question. Tell me about what's going on, so let's solve for X.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm on permanent disability. Now, meanwhile, this is a video call. I see this guy walking back and forth, fumbling with papers, doing, hold on, I got to get this. I'm like, hold on a second. You just told me you were permanently disabled. I am. I'm on permanent disability. I'm like, okay, well, what's disabled about you? He goes, well, there's something wrong with my legs. And I was like, wait a minute. Something's wrong with your legs, but you can still walk. So you're telling me, how much money are you making on disability? $1,700 a month. Could you imagine living off of and many people do. Could you imagine living off of $1,700 a month when you could go stock shelves? You could be a greeter at Walmart. You could go do something where you may not even have a lot of talents. You could fulfill some sort of job and make more money, and then that problem would no longer exist.
And I think that comes down to your why, right? I think as humans, we need a why. Like what does our existence mean? What does your existence mean for you? Right?
It's a good question.
And I think people don't know or won't look to what their why is. They're okay, like, oh, $1,700 a month. That probably isn't even my food bill. Like, that's, maybe I had too many kids. I don't know. But
But you take care of those kids.
Absolutely.
Nobody else is cutting checks for you to help take care of your kids. They were your responsibility.
No, and I've taught them, to work and to, if you want, you have to put in the work. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Do I take care of them? Yeah. If they really need something, am I there for them? Yeah. I'm going to support them, but I'm also going to show them what they need to do to get it. Right? And I think as humans, we need purpose. And the people that don't have purpose or, have no drive for a purpose, they're the people that will try to scam the system or, oh, well, I hurt my back one time when I was working when I was 25 and now I get, disability. Like, my back is far from perfect. It's hindered a lot of things that I've done, but I kept pushing through. I try to build my back muscles. I've had procedures done, and I could have easily have used that as a crutch of why I can't do something.
And I think that's a hard conversation to have, and how we bridge that gap, because I always say it's just like with money. Money's a hard conversation to have with a lot of people. Why? How do we bridge that gap? How do we make money conversations more common again? How do we make people feel comfortable in exposing their weaknesses so that we can help them build towards their strengths?
Some of it could be jealousy, right? They're embarrassed about what they have, but they need to be able to look and say, well, look, when he started, he didn't have anything, right? We all start somewhere, and it doesn't matter, are you 20? Are you 30? Are you 40? I saw a statistic, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but most people become millionaires at the age of 50.
Really?
Why is that?
I don't know.
Education, our mindset changes as we get older. I would probably attribute those things to
Experiences.
Experience, right? Some of the people that have started these billion-dollar companies were told no so many times, and then all of a sudden it takes off. I think Scrub Daddy's one of those stories. I watched that story, and it was crazy. I mean, he kept pushing. Nobody thought it was a good idea, and look at him now.
I met
Still
that.
laughing on our way to the back.
I don't know if you saw. I just met that guy on the
That's
airport.
what made me think of it.
On the airplane, because talk about branding. He was wearing. I noticed he had a
Scrub
silvery.
Daddy charm?
It was a Scrub Daddy charm. Which when I saw it, and then I noticed the hat. Now the hat looked like the brand, like the logo. This just looked like a Scrub Daddy Brillo pad or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'm like, all right, I got to know. Because, of course, he was sitting in first class and I wasn't. And I said, I got to know, are you the guy that invented it? He says, yeah. And I said, funny story. And I told him some story that I had heard about him. But he was a nice guy, cordial. He could have turned his head to me. He could have been like, yeah, don't bother me. He was cool. And that makes me want to learn more about that guy. Now, some people say maybe they had a bad experience with him, but it's funny to think how he got denied and where he started. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if you know this about me, but when I first learned about credit, I learned about the credit repair world. I was selling insurance. I had lost my shirt for the third time. I was living, the guy and girl that I worked for in the insurance business at the time, they were nice enough. Now, it was a house that was converted, 2 units upstairs as apartments, and then the insurance office, which was like an actual house, full kitchen, bathroom, whatever. I lived in that fucking unit for a year. I slept on an air mattress that was put in a closet, and then when everybody left, I would fucking blow it up for a year. You know what it's like dating when you live in the fucking office sleeping on an air mattress? It was horrible. And that motivated me to be like, dude, you're 35 fucking years old. Let's get it together. And then that led me to be where I am. But like, it's cool to see like where some people are. And I had those conversations. Like, I'm the broke guy. Like, I want to be the brokest guy in the room. I want to be like, yep, nope, broke, that's me. Yeah. Can I learn something from you? I didn't care if I was driving the cheapest Ford you could possibly find or the cheapest Honda, whatever you were driving, if it was better than me, it's like, cool. Now, in my world today, I see the guys and the girls with, look at my Mercedes and my fucking nice suit, my big fat watch. Hey, Ryan, I need help with credit because my credit sucks. Yeah. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. Does your credit suck, or are you like, oh, I'm in a shit ton of debt? And it's like, whoa, like right now in the real estate mortgage world, how many people, because the rates got crazy after COVID, the rates got crazy during COVID, everybody was buying and moving houses. Then all of a sudden the rates skyrocketed, then nobody was moving and buying. And I've seen realtors where I was saying, you better prepare. Like, don't lean on those credit cards because it might be a while. And now these people, they're still like, oh, I have to keep up this image. I'm like, you're fucking drowning in debt. And I always say this, what do you care what somebody thinks about what you drive or what you wear if you lose your fucking house next month?
I mean, I think it's a crazy mindset to think that the car you pull up to a showing in matters, right? Unless you're dealing with some high-end luxury clients, which, let's be honest, most agents in our area are not, right? The average home sale is not 10 million here, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a weird, thing to think, right? I drove work trucks for the longest time with ladders on them, with my name plastered all over them. Like every one of my truck had my name huge on it. And my wife had a nicer car, so if we went out, we would go out in her car.
So that was a date car.
We weren't going to take a work truck. And that's since changed. I don't drive a work truck anymore. But even with that, like I'm driving a Raptor R, which, if you know, it's an awesome truck, but it looks like...
But it's a Ford.
It is.
Right, like at the end of the day, it's a Ford. It doesn't have that Beamer or the Mercedes emblem on it. Yeah. It's not a Bugatti. You could afford a Huracan or whatever else, but it's like, no, I drive a Ford. Now, you could say, and you'd be the kind of guy like, yeah, I drive a Ford. Somebody who knows, they're like, no, you drive a Raptor. Yeah. Big difference. But you're not that guy, and like that's going back to, again,
and look,
simplicity.
I like nice things, and look, I've had a Panamera, and I've had different cars, and I'm, that's... My one habit is I change my cars like once a year. I don't know why, but
really,
yeah, it's always a problem. My kids always make fun of me. I'll buy a car and they start placing bets on how long I'll keep it.
What's the over/under on the Raptor?
Well, I'm already over a year.
I was going to say, you've had this for a while.
Yeah, I think this one's a little over a year, so I think this will be a 2-year car. But I had a TRD Pro, the one, and I think it was 9 months I had it, and. So it's always a running joke in the house, but it's just something I like. I mean, there's worse habits, right? And I try to buy cars that I know are going to hold some value, and I know the Raptor will, so I won't lose any money on it. So.
But how many people don't make the income you have, and they're the people that are out there getting a new car every year or every 2 years? Like, I see that happen a lot.
And they can't breathe.
And it's like, well, I'm $300 a month underwater on my car payment, and I'm like, well, why? Well, because I needed to have this. I deserved it. But I really, like, No, like you're not impressing anybody. You're impressing people to have so much stress.
They're puffing their own chest up, but then when they go home, they can't breathe.
Yeah, they feel good that somebody saw the Mercedes, but then they go home and they've got all this stress from the debt. And then they wake up the next morning with that same stress. I can fortunately say, like, and my wife knows this, like, I have zero stress. Now, we have normal stress, but like, what is stress?
Yeah.
Right? Stress is, can I figure this out? When I can't figure it out and I'm in trouble, then I'll be stressed. Right now, any situation that comes in my world.
That's an important thing you said. If I have stress and I can't figure it out, right? And I always say this is like, I don't see problems, I see solutions, right? And sometimes you just have to get in your circle and ask a few people, what would you do in this situation, right? And brainstorm it, right? If you harp on it and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? The problem becomes so much bigger in your head than it actually is.
Agreed.
So make a call to someone you believe in or that you trust, or maybe somebody you don't even know that you see on Instagram. You know, our numbers are out there. Give us a call. Let's brainstorm it together. I'm sure we'll come up with a solution.
See, your businesses are very different than mine, but my business, here's the wildest part. For years, I put stuff on Facebook. Minimal results, minimal people, minimal whatever. Natalie, if you're listening, my stepdaughter, she's like, you got to be on TikTok. I'm like, there's kids on TikTok, and kids don't have credit cards or money, so what the fuck am I going to do? What I learned about TikTok was TikTok's algorithm puts you in front of people you don't know. Facebook, Instagram Reels have changed, but Facebook and Instagram was all about people you knew and you were connected with.
Yeah.
TikTok, 95% of the people that saw my content didn't know me. That's how I took off on TikTok. But the interesting thing is, how many people on Facebook know me, know about me, have seen my results, and they still won't fucking ask for help? It's wild.
Because you're local.
And because people don't want you to know they're dirty skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm helping.
When you can take those skeletons out of the closet, right, and get rid of them, they don't get it, right? And that's a pride thing. And you know, I've been in positions where, you know, I would go all in, right? I'm running the construction company. I'm flipping at the time, and there was 3 good deals. I bought all 3. I'm 9/10 of the way through one of them before I can get it on the market, and I'm looking at my bank account, and I'm like, oh my God. What am I going to do? I don't have enough money to get this done. And I would harp on it. I would give myself anxiety, rush myself to the hospital. And, you know, oddly enough, I'd finish the one, put it on the market, and it would sell. And I'm like, I'm great again. Like, this is great. I'm good. And it took a lot of time for me to kind of understand what was happening. And I did it over and over. It was almost like I liked pressure. I perform better under pressure. And so I would put myself in these positions, but I would say with age, I still can go all in, but how I do it and how I utilize my credit is way different.
Sure.
You know, and that's attributed to you, people like Bill, and, you know, other professionals in our business that we can bounce ideas off of and take the path of least resistance.
And Bill's a great guy. I mean, when I first met Bill, he was with the We Buy Houses and stuff like that. I saw him, you know, I don't know how much he lost, but I saw things change for him. Yeah. And now he's back to being on beaches of the world. And he's like, oh, you're always traveling. I'm like, says the guy who's always on a beach somewhere.
He shouldn't talk.
I'm like, told you, give me no shit.
Talk.
But again, like, he and I have had many of these conversations. Like, he's a guy that if I've had questions, I'd ask him. And I was fortunate to have friends like him and guys like when you and I had dinner last year when we talked about, because I'm looking to make some investments. Now, I took all the money I had, right? So like ITC, you know, took me 6 years to become an overnight success, but then I started making money where I could put money away. I literally invested all of my money into me, not into real estate or anything like that. To the point where last month, I guess it was January. It was December or January, where I had to pay off a large sum of money, and I didn't have it. And I was freaking out. It was the first time I was stressing because I'm like, wow, I can't pay my credit card off in full this month. I'm a fraud. But it wasn't, because I made an investment. Mm-hmm. And you know what I did? I fucking grinded my ass off. Now, for my wife, who, I don't know, she probably won't listen this far in the podcast, but maybe she will, right?
She'll see the
She had this deal with me. She knew some nights where I was like, babe, I love you. I have to work tonight.
Yeah.
And we weren't broke. I could have easily just said, I'll pay it next month. But it was about the fucking principle. saying, can I do it? And when I tell you, I paid the credit card on the due date, but I paid that fucker in full. And I had zero cash left.
Yeah.
But I felt so fucking good because then I'm like, A, I'm broke again. I've been broke many times. I'm like, I'd rather be broke than be in debt.
Yeah.
Being broke, I'm fine with being broke. I could be broke any day of the week and I'll start over and be okay. I wasn't in debt. And people automatically think credit cards mean debt. Well, no, it's only debt if that credit card debt runs away from you. Like I had a girl, $138,000 of credit card debt. Credit card debt.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? But I figured it out. And then I was like, wait a minute, not only did I make it through that stressful situation, I knew that if I needed to fix that problem, what do I have to do? Roll your fucking sleeves up and go to work.
Yeah. Get it done.
Get it done. Oh, I only want to work 40 hours. 40 hours a week is a fucking luxury. If you can afford to live comfortably on 40 hours a week, great, good for you. But if you can't, don't tell me fucking Johnny's baseball practice is more important than paying your bills. Because what's Johnny going to remember more? You went to their practice or you lost your house?
Yeah.
Now, making their games, I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Make their games. But don't say you got to make their practice. And then you're like, oh, my wife is going to leave me because we're about to lose our house. Well, like, yeah, then you just made bad decisions.
What's your priority?
Yeah, and that's it's hard, right? Like, it's hard because a lot of realtors and mortgage people, how many of them right now, they're living different stressful lives because they're not order takers in a deli counter anymore.
Yeah.
You know, rates are coming back a little bit now, but it's like for the last year and a half, rates weren't so good. People weren't moving. And I've seen a lot of stressful situations. Do you know how many people have reached out to me for help? Or how many reached out to me for help when they were already in a shitty situation and now I can't fix it?
Yeah.
That's worse because it's like, if you would have called me 9 months ago, I could have fixed that problem like that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think having
they wait until they're so deep. Now they want, you know, when it was first happening, it would have been an easier thing to fix, right? But sometimes people let things go, and you know, they at that point they're just not willing to ask for help. And you know, I say this all the time: never be afraid to call somebody and ask them a question. You know, what's the worst they could say?
Yeah, and I do think
fuck yourself.
Or they're just like,
fine.
yeah, sorry, I ain't got time.
All right,
Yeah.
let me call the next person on the list.
And that's where it's funny when you said, going back to your origin story about getting into construction, you learned the industry, but you also learned to sell. And that's where your branding originated.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's another thing. People are like, oh, a salesperson. I'm like, guess what? That salesperson's probably what fuels your fucking job. So like, you should be really appreciative. Like, yeah, they may make a lot more money. Do you know how many jobs I've been at where they're like, oh, I can never sell? Like, you realize if I don't sell, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
That's a crazy part of the world. Is if somebody, you're always selling, whether you're the owner of a company, the salesperson of a company, you know, the owner of a product. Like, people poo-poo salespeople or sales in general. I'm like, I think going and being a bartender or server is fantastic. I love where I see like countries where you have to do military, you have to join the military for 6 months or a year. Like, there's a lot of countries where that's mandatory.
Listen, if you can be a bartender and hold a conversation with all of the different patrons that come to the bar, you can probably sell anything. Some of the bartenders could make some of the best salespeople.
Absolutely.
You know, it's so important. So I want to go back and just tell me how you got started with I Teach Credit.
It's real simple. I was broke and I couldn't do anything. For 5 years, I couldn't get a credit card. I couldn't get anything. This is actually a fun story. This is where the story starts, really, with ITC. Is for 5 years, we were talking about 9/11 and where we were. And I can tell you exactly, for 5 years or so, I couldn't get approved for a single credit card. Like nothing at all. And I was working for State Farm and I was working with my buddy Brian, and he's like, you know, you should just try to get a credit card. Now, of course, State Farm's all about having 100 different products with them so you don't leave. I got approved for a credit card, and it was like a $5,000 limit. And I was so excited because I had a credit card. And then what happened was, I don't know how many months later it was. It was a couple months later. I go to pay the bill, and I see I have this cash back at the top corner. And I'm like, well, what is that? And I'm like, oh, this is cash back. Now, I knew nothing about credit cards at this point. I'm 35, 36 years old. I know nothing about credit cards. That's pathetic. I know what Amex is. I know what Chase is, but I know nothing about credit cards.
Would you say that 99% of people don't know how credit cards work?
I would probably, today I would say it's probably 80-20.
Okay.
Like I just talked to Bernathen High School twice, and like even the teenage kids, they like probably 20% of them know the difference between a credit card or a debit card. So I go to pay the bill, and I literally could pay 1 full month of my insurance premium because of cash back from using my credit card, which at that point in time, I had already been burned, you know, I got into trouble with credit cards when I was younger because I was living beyond my means. 9/11 happened, whatever. I paid one full month of my auto insurance premium because that's all I had was an auto insurance policy. And I'm like, oh my God, these credit cards, like that's free money. A couple months later, I'm out to dinner and I see this guy, we go to pay, and he pulls out, is when the Chase Sapphire card first came out. And I remember looking at it, and you know what, most credit cards back then, all the credit cards had the name, the 16-digit number, the expiration date, all that shit on the front.
Yeah.
This card just said Chase Sapphire and the person's name. And I was like, oh my God, that was FOMO. That was sexy as fuck. I need that credit card. I did all the research on it.
That's what turned you on?
That's what did it for me, right? Like that was the shiny object. And that was the panty dropper. And so like I looked at that and I was like, I got to get that card. And then I looked into it. I got the card, and that was the first metal card that ever came out. And what really, this is the pathetic part of me. I'll never forget, we went to our first, I was down the shore, we were in Sea Isle at, it's not Baco, it's, I can't think of the one with the 302s, right there as soon as you get in. Anyway, we walked in, Braca, and I hand over my credit card to pay, and the bartender picks it up and he goes, what the hell is this? And he goes, oh, you'll lose every time you play credit card roulette. Everybody then started to know what the card was.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, wow, I'm still fucking broke, but this credit card makes me feel like I'm doing better than I am. But I was still paying my credit card off in full every single month. Next card I got was the Sam's Club card. Next card I got was the Southwest card. Southwest used to fly out of Philadelphia. Free flights. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And that's when I was watching Stephen Lau and Ty Lopez one night. I was in my first apartment. I was sitting drinking some beers or some wine, and I saw this 20-year-old kid. He was 20 years old with 200 credit cards, $2 million with Ty Lopez. And Ty Lopez was like asking all these questions. He's like, how'd you do this? And how'd you get there? And I'm like, wow, this little kid actually knows something. He was selling a $500 course on credit. That night, I applied for the American Express Platinum card like a fucking idiot, and I bought a $500 credit course because I'm like, if that kid can teach me some of the shit that he's learning and that he knows, maybe that can help me. That was the night I went through that entire course. I think I went to bed at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I went through all that content to learn how this kid was getting all this credit because for 5 years I couldn't get it. This kid's teaching me in 3 hours how to have a shit ton of credit. And I'm like, oh my God, what can I do with that credit? I can get my own apartment because they do a credit check to get an apartment. I'm getting more calls now for people that are getting denied for a fucking apartment. Not even a house, an apartment. They don't qualify. I have women that are like, hey, I had to sign for my boyfriend's car because he has shit credit. Going back to fantasy football stats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I went through that material, and from then I was hooked because then I was like, oh my God, I can invest in credit and then I can have a taste of the good life. And then that summer, my buddy, I was showing him like, oh man, I got this card. And I think I got like 15 credit cards in a year and a half. But my buddy was like, I was like, yeah, I could do this. And like, this is what's happening. He goes, well, if you're so good at it, why don't you teach it? GoDaddy. I've already bought domains. GoDaddy.com. Credit domains were anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000. I teach credit, $12.
It's a good deal.
And from then on, I remember like my first YouTube videos, awkward.
What year was that? How long ago was that?
It was 2018. Well, that would have been 2018, January 24th of 2018. And I show people all the time, you can go into my Credit Karma and it shows you the day I got my American Express Platinum card.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, the next month in February, the Flyers were playing in Las Vegas, the first time the Flyers played in the Vegas Knights. And again, one of my best friends at the time, we're sitting at a bar and I pull out the Platinum card. He goes, what the hell is that? I said, oh, it's the Amex Platinum card. He goes, only an idiot would have a credit card with an annual fee like that. And my response at the time was like, you'll learn. Because I was still broke at that point in time.
So at 2018, your friend hit you with a great question or a statement, you know, why don't you teach it? You decide to go with it. You buy the domain and you start it. What are you doing at the time for work?
I'm still selling insurance.
Okay. So you're selling insurance. You have this vision. You're learning. You took the course. You spent $500 you didn't have on a credit card you didn't have.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know that in credit score influenced your insurance rates at the time. I had no idea. And then we started figuring out, I'm like, wait a minute, why is this person getting denied? There's no claims, there's no losses.
Credit.
It's credit. I found that out from an underwriter who said, I can't legally tell you this, but this is probably the reason why. Then I started doing research and I was like, wait a minute, what other things does credit influence? And I just started going down that path and being like, oh my God, you know, how do I help people with their credit? And 2 years prior, I had learned about the credit repair world. And I see these people making shit tons of money.
And they don't really fix much in most cases. Your score will go up a little bit, but a lot of times they're just taking people's money.
I always say this.
I'm not saying there's not good ones out there.
Sure. There are some good ones out there. 80-20, maybe less.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this. Billionaire bank corporations aren't in business to lose money. And you may pull out a magic eraser that works, but they're going to continuously get rid of that eraser. Mm-hmm. Because if you actually miss payments, if you actually have collections, if you actually have repos, like I don't care if you washed the car, shined the tires, filled it up with gas, and drove it to the bank. A repo is a repo. Right?
Yeah.
But people don't teach that. People are like, oh, I gave the car back. Oh, that was nice of you. It's still a repo.
The number one thing in school, like they should be teaching kids how to budget. They should be teaching them credit. And it's almost like they don't do it on purpose because this way the banks can make 29% interest on them.
There's no money in educated people.
Yeah.
There's no money in healthy people. Why do you think pharmaceutical companies, right? Like, look at whether you smoke marijuana or not. Look at how many people marijuana has helped. I know countless people that marijuana has helped them.
Look at the food pyramid that they showed us when we were kids. Yeah. It's not the right stuff to eat,
all right, so
especially ultra processed.
Right. So you and I are older now. Let me ask you this question. How many meals a day do you eat?
I do love food. So usually I'll usually eat 3 or 4.
But you still work out a lot too, right?
Of course.
So I work
but it's
out.
What I eat.
I can tell you now, the less I eat, the better I feel.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Well, and it's probably the type of food you're eating too. If you eat ultra processed at our age, it's going to affect you. You're going to feel sluggish. Mm-hmm. Your stomach might feel bloated. These aren't things that happen when we were in our 20s and 30s. But again, I always say 40 hits different. If I eat just a steak, I feel great. If I eat all the fixings to go with it, you start to feel bad.
Steak and onions. I could live off of just steak and onions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild thing. But so that's where everything started for me. It was
2018, then we go through COVID. I feel like I started to see it more, I want to say 2021, 2022, I started to see you really start, repping it and putting it out there. So what was kind of the in-between and how did it get to where it is?
Well, so I was fortunate to work for a broker. And working for a broker, so I did mortgages from I'm going to say it was 2019 or 2020, whatever it was, up till 2023. Maybe it was 2018, but somewhere in that time frame, I worked for a mortgage broker, and the amount of people that came to the mortgage broker because the regular traditional lenders would deny them. The most common cause of being denied for a mortgage was their credit. Because everybody's throwing out grants, there's money here, gifts, grants, whatever the hell. Credit was the one thing that was a hard no. So I was like, all right, well, how many of these people can I now help them with regards to their credit profiles without deleting, without disputing, without erasing? And the number became staggeringly enough that it was like, hey, you're denied, go to Ryan. And that's when I started to learn the real power of credit. I'm like, wow, I can dilute somebody's negative history. Instead of trying to delete it and dispute it, which you're in real estate world, somebody comes with a credit profile with a bunch of fucking disputes on there. All that does is artificially inflate the score. So you have to get those disputes removed.
And it takes a lot of time.
And costs a lot of money to do rapid rescores on top of the original cost for a credit profile. When you do a tri-merge mortgage report, it's over $100, I think now. So what I was doing was saying hey, let's take a different approach to this. And I did so many of them that as the mortgage world slowed, I hated the mortgage industry. I never wanted to just push loans on people because that's what we needed. That's their job. I get it. And I don't fault people for, having to make a living. I don't fault anybody for that. But I didn't want to push a loan as a loan. No, it's not. That person shouldn't be getting a loan. I didn't believe in that world. Yeah. And so I said, well, how else do I eat? Slowly started building on my own, posting a lot of content. I was posting my own profile. And then on occasion, I was posting results. And then one day it was and I never mastered the points game, but people saw me traveling a lot. And they're like, how the fuck do you afford to do all that stuff? I was like, points.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was well, those credit cards become a lot more attractive because you don't have to be rich to have a good credit score. And with a good credit score, you can still get good cards with good sign-up bonuses, and those sign-up bonuses lead to free travel. And I just kept posting. Not knowing how many people were watching. And the best part was, you know who Ed Rogers is, right?
Yeah.
One day I talked to Ed Rogers. I find out Ed Rogers is, following all my stuff. Now, I knew who Ed Rogers was. I've never seen a like. I've never seen a comment. I've never seen a share. Never seen anything. So I was like, this motherfucker. So I said, I want a phone call with him. So I get on the phone with him and he goes, hey, Ryan. I was like, you fucking closet watcher. I'm like, for 2 years, you've been following me. You never liked. And he busted, a big laugh. Talks kind of slower, like just laid back. He's like, oh, yeah. He goes, I think your shit's great. I'm like, but it made me realize how many other closet watchers do I have that I'm providing value to that if I just keep doing it, my audience will grow.
Yeah.
Even if they're quiet, I'm okay. Because you know what he did? He used me just to get a card. Just like you. Didn't have bad credit. He had good credit. He's like, what do I do with it? Boom. A couple months later, he sends me a screenshot. He and his wife and their 2 kids to Florida, over $2,200 in airfare. Free.
Yeah.
Free. And that was just another one of those moments where I was like, just keep fucking pushing. And now here I am on a podcast with you. I've spoken on some stages with other local people. And that's the other reason I wanted to do this is because you're a local guy. Right? Like we're all local to some extent, right? Yeah. But how many people could you inspire? How many teenage kids or 20-year-old kids could you inspire to become an independent contractor? Even if they're just a plumber, just an electrician. You started with gutters.
Yeah.
Like how many people could just go do gutters and make a comfortable living? Now they have to go and create their own business, but they don't have to work for somebody else.
Yeah. Create your brand.
And that's where I built my brand and, the mortgage world got crazy enough. And then one day I was like, hey, it's time for me to go on my own.
So you're saying 2018 to 2023 and 2023 is kind of when you were like.
August of 2023 is when I went on my own.
On your own. So now we're in 2026. Where's the time go? Yeah, that's like a blink. And how's everything going?
It's amazing. So I have it's a school community, SKOOL, started by Sam Ovens.
Yeah.
Alex Ramosey's now teamed up with him.
Yep.
At first, I didn't really know, I didn't see the value. But as they've grown, and I've been with Sam Ovens for years, like I remember when Sam Ovens did his own sales calls. And then Sam Ovens started consulting.com. He got really, really big. He took time off, then he built school, and everybody thought he was fucking crazy. Nobody's going to do it. I don't even know the user count right now, but like I did the math one day. I was like,
I see advertisements for it on my page all the time.
So here's a funny thing. Like anytime you could create your own school community on how to do gutters and create your own gutter company.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu, it could be anything.
How many times have you explained the home buying process to people?
So many.
So many. Imagine if you're like, hey, I'm going to give you access to this community that's going to literally tell you step by step. If you're not approved, here's what you got to do. If you are approved, here's what you got to do. Once you're under contract, here's what's to expect.
Yeah.
You can map that all out, and it's all in, how long? 60-second, 60-minute, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. You could literally say, here's the entire home buying process from qualifying to home buying, all mapped out, and you don't have to spend 30 minutes. Now, you want to have the 15 to 30-minute call to build rapport so that people feel comfortable with who you are. But say, hey, listen, you're interested. You're not quite there just yet. Here's a link to a classroom where you can learn for free. You can make it for free. You could charge $10. You can do whatever. With the school community, I give 7 days for free, and I host weekly live coaching calls so that if people want to join, the number of people, like I have an Olympian, I've had NFL players, I've had all walks of life join my school community and work with me for coaching. It's the greatest thing ever because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Because not only am I thankfully making good money for myself, I make money on one-on-one consultations, I make money on the school community, I make money on affiliates. Like when I refer links to loans or credit cards, whatever, I've diversified my profile. I have multiple revenue streams, which is awesome.
Super important.
Now what's cool is for the people that can't really afford a lot, I still have means so that I can dedicate a certain amount of time for them. And then I spend the rest of my day with people who can afford to pay for my time, knowing your value.
Yeah.
Right? Like at some point in time, I know I'm not going to have, I've turned business away. Like you're not going to talk to me that way. Or and I tell people like, no, you're not going to, I'm not Costco. You can't use my service and then just demand your money back. Like I will fight every single one of them. Some people like give the money back. I'm like, no. Like if I didn't deliver, fine. If I couldn't fix your problem, fine.
But I think the important part that you said is that you still carve out time to help the people that can't afford it. And I think that probably comes back tenfold. You know, I tell a story. I had a buyer client and we looked at a for sale by owner and I got it under contract. And I assured the seller, the owner, who's also a GC and runs a pretty big company in our area, that my buyer was good. And he was good. Then he lost his job and disappeared and just wouldn't return our calls. So then I had to go to the seller and say, listen, I messed up. And it wasn't really me, but I owned it. I assured you that this deal was good. And, you took it. I said, I'm going to list your house for free. I'm going to put it on the MLS. You don't have to pay me anything. Just offer the buyer's agent 2.5%. No problem. Deal. Signs with me. I put it up. Not expecting anything. We sell it. He hands me a bonus, at the end. Here, this is for you. I appreciate what you did. No problem.
Karma.
I have so many connections from him. I've sold so much in real estate because of him. I'm selling one of his houses right now, one of his builds. But also, I've met so many people through him that we work together on the construction side, but also they've all bought and sold with me. Like, it's a huge number. All because I was willing to work for nothing.
You did the right thing, too.
Absolutely.
It's not even just working for free. You did the right thing. You could have been
but most people would say, I'm not doing that. Like, my time is this.
Yeah.
My time is too. But I felt a certain way about it, and I wanted to make good on it. And I wanted him to realize, like, this dude's a go-getter. He's willing to, sacrifice a paycheck. And I always told, for me at this point, it's not about the money. The money's nice, obviously. I work hard for it. But I can afford to do these things.
Yeah.
Right? And that one act created so much business, but so many other people would shoot themselves in the foot and not do that and lose that connection.
I agree. And that's hard to teach because people don't have that future vision.
Yeah.
Right? Like I want it and I want it right now.
Yeah.
DoorDash, credit cards.
They're not willing to sit down and write a 5-year plan.
No.
It's a now plan.
Mm-hmm.
I want this now. Everybody wants the Mercedes. How about get where you're going first, and then if you want the Mercedes, buy it. Where you're not stressed and you're like, how am I going to pay for this Mercedes, right? And I'm a big proponent of multiple streams of income, and I'm huge on, trying to show all the agents different ways they can bring in, multiple streams. Where as a brokerage, I don't want to control them. I don't even want them having our emails. Right? That's a huge thing. These brokerages give you their email, and then if you go to leave, they just turn your email off. Now, What do you do with all your clients? Right? So I try to educate the agents on the right way to come into the brokerage. So your data is your data. They're using you for you. All I'm doing, I'm giving you the tools and more money to succeed. Right? And that was always my goal, agent first. Not brokerage first. I want the agents to have every tool they need and not have to pay for it.
It's almost like you're keeping the door open for them to leave, like comfortably, like, hey, man.
And that's fine.
Like, and I respect that because
I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Everywhere I worked, it was like, oh, if I produced that business. Now, if it came in from a lead from their advertising, their marketing, their lead source, they gave me the lead, that was their business. If I created that shit myself from cold calling, from creating content, that's my business.
Yeah.
And I will fight that shit all day long. But I think that's awesome. You literally are like, no, that's your business. So if you want to leave, if you're not happy, that door is open. I'm not going to fight.
Take all your data with you and go sell. I'm building a brand, right? I'm building my brand and it matters a lot to me and how it's perceived is a lot. So I've turned agents away that have come and I've looked at their social media and I'm like, you're not the right fit here. I apologize, but I don't like what you're putting out into the world. And for me, it could tarnish what I'm trying to build. And some people say, oh, you just take everybody. But people are going to see it. And so my name and the brand matters more. And I want to show everybody how to make money and be comfortable. I'm not hiding any secrets from anybody. Let me show you how to make more money. And let me show you why this system works better. I've been at places where there was no cap. You're just paying forever. There's no argument there. There's nothing you're going to change my mind. If you like the people and it's the vibe you want, then that's your answer. But don't say it's because you're going to make more money because you're not.
What good is 100 agents that are liabilities when you only have 10 producers?
Yeah.
And I have no idea.
Honestly, if you look at the numbers at most brokerages, that's what it is.
I didn't know if it's 80-20 or 90-10, but I know it's...
And some brokerages, if you're charging a fee to every agent, they want 300 agents. Why not?
Yeah,
They're
that's
making
a revenue stream for them.
big money every month. And so to that, if that's your model, that makes sense, right? But to work somewhere where no matter what, you're going to pay them a percentage on every deal, you have no opportunity to make 100% of your money. It's like the worst business decision you could make, right? But some agents will argue it. And I'm like, it's not an argument. You can pick whatever model you want, but you can't tell me that you're going to make more money there.
Yeah.
Unless they're giving you all the leads, that's a different conversation.
I think that's the biggest mistake every salesperson. If you expect leads from anybody, you're not doing your job right.
Yeah.
Now, it's one thing if you have a business where they have an inflow of leads and they need closers. That's different.
Yeah.
But like if you think you're going to make it in real estate, in insurance, in any real sales position,
Yeah.
you got to be willing to be the brand.
Yeah. You can't. It's not. Nothing's going to be handed for free. So, with credit scores, there's a lot of myths, right? So, what does everybody get wrong?
All right, so here's the biggest myths. Number one, more credit's bad. Okay, like the biggest thing is people are like, why the heck do you have so many credit cards? And I'm like, it's very simple. Every credit card that I have, right, you have two components to credit. There's depth and diversification. Depth comes from having credit open for a long period of time, okay? Would you say credit cards are good or bad?
I think they're good.
Okay. You would because you make money and you use them wisely and responsibly. You're not out there buying stupid shit you can't afford. For a lot of people, they think they're bad. Why? Because they're Dave Ramsey fans. They're spendaholics. They cannot control, right? Just because I have $100,000 that I could spend in my pocket doesn't mean I can spend $100,000. Because in my mind, I'm like, I need to be able to pay this thing off. And I don't pay it off at the end of the month, at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Okay? So credit cards are good. That's one of the things. Too much credit is bad. That's wrong. Having more credit available to you, how many people, they get into a jam and they need credit, but they're already maxed out so they can't get more additional credit. So now you've screwed yourself. So this is why having available lines open and active so that whenever you do have a life situation, dog dies, parent gets sick, tires, you have to be replaced, car needs repairs, whatever it is, hot water heater goes, you have the credit there. That's okay. Because I want a new fucking TV, or you know what? I broke up with my boyfriend.
The Super Bowl's coming. I need to buy an 80-inch TV, or
Phillies are in the playoffs. I'm going to spend how much stupid fucking money to go when they could possibly lose, and you have the worst time ever, and then you spend $2,000 on a pair of tickets.
Yeah.
I see that shit happen all the time. Okay, so credit's designed to be there in case of an emergency. All right. One of the other things about credit is that if you can pay your credit card multiple times per month and get more payment history, that doesn't work. You have to pay your credit card on time every single month. Paying your credit card 4 times a month every single week just lowers your exposure and makes it easier to manage. And that's where managing your credit cards, managing your debt makes credit so much better. But people get that wrong all the time. They're like, oh, I can't even pay it every single week. Yes, you can. Go try it.
Yeah.
That will help you. That reduces your exposure. And I would probably say the last thing is that most people, they start building credit when it's too late. I'm giving 17-year-old kids 700 credit scores within 30 days of turning 18 so that when they go to college, their parents don't have to co-sign. They don't have to co-sign for the apartment. They don't have to co-sign for their student loans. How many parents are buried under student loan debt right now? Because they signed that debt. They co-signed it.
Yeah.
And another thing is married couples should never, ever, ever, other than the mortgage, they should never go on each other's debt. Like, oh, it's so cute. We're going to finance this car together. That's really fucking stupid because now you both carry that debt on your profile. Yeah. You have your car. She has her car. You have your credit cards. Yeah. She has her credit cards. And I always say that because of the 3 Ds of life: death, divorce, and disability. When I met my wife, she had a 450 credit score from her divorce. When we got together and we were going to move forward, I was like, I'm not taking on dead weight. So you're going to fix your finances or we're not going to continue. Now, people thought I was an asshole. When my wife broke 700, we were sitting watching a Flyers game. She started crying. I'm like, what's the matter? She shows me her phone, 700 credit score. She goes, I've never had a 700 in my life.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. Then my wife's getting $20,000 and $25,000 credit cards. Yeah. Like a parent, I'm like, I want to see your credit score because it can't lie.
Yeah.
Right? And so like for a while, she was,
But finances is always a tough conversation. And I think especially for, new relationships or people that are going to marry, that's almost like they want to act like it doesn't exist. But realizing that, no, you have to discuss these things. And I've been in that boat where my wife had a bunch of credit cards. They go to the store. Oh, you get a discount if you get this card. Oh, you do this, you do that. And out of nowhere, I just happened, because I always let her take care of the home bills. I take care of all the business stuff. I started going through the checkbook, and I'm like, what? I said, I need to see all your credit cards. And it got away from her.
Yeah.
It really did.
It happened to me.
And, we're married. So we had a tough conversation. I said, you need to do this, 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 and this. And guess what? She did it. And she realized, and she admittedly said, it got away from me. Her and the kids would go to the mall, and that's what they would do. And they would just buy things. But it's so easy to get away. It's like free money. I think that's how people think about it.
It's exactly what it is.
But every month it's costing you thousands and thousands in interest. So
like you said, that $1,000 TV doesn't cost $1,000.
No,
If you're paying 29% interest for however long. Now, the other thing is 0% interest. I'm going to do balance transfers. I have a guy that real estate investor tried to do a balance transfer. He transferred 4 cards in his name and 2 cards in his wife's names, maxed them all out. His score went from 780 down to like a 540 or 550.
Yeah. Now what are you qualifying for?
He says, hey, what can I do about this? I'm like, nothing. Like, I cannot get you hardly anything with a 550 credit score. If you came to me when it was 650, like anybody who's listening to this, if you have credit card debt and your score's hopefully 650 or higher, I have outlets. Even if, let's say, you're paying 28% interest on a credit card and 28% interest on a loan, if you move that credit card debt to a loan, that will boost your credit score, and now you can refinance the loan debt. It's a little trick that people don't know about, but you have to strategically do it. And if you don't do it in time, you fuck yourself.
Yeah. And now you're under the gun.
And now you can't do anything. Like that guy can't, there's nothing I can do for him because nobody's going to give him more money. He's already stretched to the max. Now, he will make some good money. I just can't help him now. Does that mean it's permanent? There's nothing permanent in credit.
Yeah.
There's no good that's permanent. There's no bad that's permanent. If you're in a bad position now, don't think there's nothing you can do about it. If you're in bankruptcy right now, they'll tell you there's nothing you can do about it. The fuck there isn't. I can help you right away.
Well, it's the same thing with people that are going into like foreclosure, and there's equity, but they won't sell.
But why is that? Is that ego? Uneducated?
Yeah, I think
both.
I think it's both. I think it's both. They don't understand. They think or they think something's going to happen. But take that equity and restart. Why would you let them? They end up with nothing. They take the house. They could have sold it, and sometimes we're not talking about like 10,000 in equity. Sometimes it's 50 to 100 grand, enough to go get an apartment, pay all your stuff down, and restart. But it's like they don't want to go back to the start. But that's okay. Sometimes you got to rebuild. You've done it so many times, right?
So many times.
I mean, I've been in some pretty bad situations. And it's always worked out, but it's because I didn't quit. I didn't like get frustrated and be like, oh my God, it's over. Like, no, keep pushing through that wall. So it's super important, for people to seek out people that have been in these positions and that have found a roadmap and let us help you.
There's no shame in being in a bad spot. The only shame is doing nothing about it.
How do you think credit for real estate investors or entrepreneurs, is how they think differently than a normal consumer, or how should they think?
Simple. Let's say you have $100,000. How many houses cash can you buy with $100,000?
Maybe one.
Maybe.
Unless it's in Kensington, you might be able to get 2.
Or Pottstown or like someplace,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
If I have $100,000 of cash, how many houses can I buy in credit?
Yeah.
2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
A lot more, right? So like I could buy a much bigger house, right? I could potentially buy a $100,000 house, right? So if you make profit on a $100,000 house versus a $400,000 house, what's the difference? It's a lot. So that's where you have to look at and say, that's the power of leveraging credit. And that's what many people don't think about it. Like when people say, oh, like what good is all that credit? It's like real simple. Can I go buy a car wash with credit? Sure I can. If I go buy a house and I only put 5% down or 3% down, how much money do I gain versus if I put $100,000 down?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the power of the multiplier comes in. And that's just leveraging credit. But again, you got to be smart. You got to be calculated. You got to do your research. And you got to make sure you surround yourself with a good lender, with a good realtor, with good, data on the market that you're looking to invest in. Just like, should you have a certain credit card? If you don't fucking travel, don't go and get an $895 travel credit card that only earns you good points and rewards on travel and airfare. Yeah. Go get yourself a 3% Robinhood, 3% cashback Robinhood card or 2% City Double Cash card, because neither one of them have an annual fee and you can get 2 to 3% on every single dollar you spend. and not have to worry about an annual fee or figuring out what to do with points. Like when people get points credit cards and then they use them to buy fucking gift cards at less than, it's 0.6 cents per point, not 1 cent per point. It's 0.6 cents per point. So it's less than 1 cent per point. That's a complete waste versus I could get 4, 5, 7 cents per point if I use them for travel purposes.
Yeah.
That's a whole different avenue. That's like,
Yeah. But it's learning how to utilize, what you have, right?
absolutely.
Do you want to work with an agent that actually does flips in real estate, or do you want one that's never invested a day in her life or his life?
Yeah.
It's trying to seek out people that have done it before, because they're going to know the mistakes. They've made the mistakes, and not one that's tried it once, one that's done it over and over again, right? Like how many people, you've helped. So it's huge. So, what would be if somebody whose credit's a move, or I'm sorry, someone's credit's a mess, right? Let's say, they're in the 500s. What's the first, what's the 3 moves you would teach somebody, from going from a 580 to 720 in 12 months?
Awesome question. First thing is this: build a budget. Build a budget. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you think. Understand your budget, because that'll tell you where your problem is. If I understand how much money I'm making and how much money I'm spending, do I have an income problem? Do I have a spending problem?
Yeah.
More people than not, they have a spending problem. But there's a lot of people that have an income problem, going back to our earlier conversations, and they're not willing to pick up that second job, work 10 extra hours a week, do whatever they got to do so that they can pay off the debt. Because if you can pay off that debt, or like I look at people and I'm like, hey, if I could save you $200 a month, would that change your life? I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's pay off your credit card debt and stop paying $200 fucking debt or $200 in credit card interest every single month. That's accumulating, compounding debt, adding to the problem. Let's pay that off. Well, how do I do that? Cool. We're going to go find a part-time job, and we're going to work an extra 20 hours a month, 5 hours a week, whatever the case may be. Build the budget first. Second, let's understand the factors that make up your profile. I don't care if you use Credit Karma, My Score IQ, My FICO, Credit Sesame, any platform that can teach you how the credit factors work and can show you what you're doing with regards to your credit, right? If you look at the scale, does that help you lose weight? No. How you sleep, how you exercise, what you eat, what you drink, that's going to be what determines your weight, okay? Figure out how you're spending, what your utilization is, how many accounts you have you been applying for too much credit? Understanding the factors, that's what's going to help you maximize your credit score. And then the last thing is manage your debt and your finances weekly. Most people, what do? They have a 30-day cycle on their credit card, okay? Let's say in January, I spend for 30 days. Let's just assume 30 days in a month. February 1st, you're like, hey, Tim, congratulations. You spent $1,000 in the month of January. February 23rd, we want you to make a minimum monthly payment. What happens by the time February 23rd comes around? Your $1,000 statement balance now is $1,750, assuming you spend $250 a week, right? So now you look and you're like, well, shit, I can't pay $1,750. My statement balance was $1,000. Maybe I'll pay $1,200. Here's a fun question for you. If your statement balance is $1,000 and you pay $950 of it off,
You're paying interest on the 1,000.
correct. Do you know how many people don't know that?
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. And that's simple, easy credit logic. That's the stuff we need to teach. So if week 1 you spend $700 or $250, you pay it off. Week 2, if you spend $250 and you can't pay it off, then you have a problem. Or maybe you spent $350. Now you know credit's like a basketball game. You have 4 quarters in every month, okay? Week 1, if you did good, great. Week 2, if you didn't, you need to throttle back on week 3. By managing what I call the 7-day credit cycle, every 7 days for 7 weeks, pay your credit cards to zero, watch your credit score soar. You do that for 4 months, then you can get credit limit increases, and then that just makes your...
Do you think the issue is that people use the cards and they're not looking at it, right? It's in their wallet. They go to Starbucks. It's in their wallet. They go to Wawa. They just keep going every day, all day, and they don't pay attention until the statement comes. Mm-hmm. And now it's this big number.
Yep.
Versus you teaching, the 7-day cycle, you're paying attention to it more. So now maybe you will throttle back the spending because, you're watching that keep growing and you know what your paycheck is. Right? Versus people that just don't pay attention to it and they get this huge bill at the end of the month and they can't pay it.
And that's the best thing. Where's your money going? I don't know.
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly where every fucking dollar goes. I know exactly where all my money's going because every 7 days I just look and I'm like, damn, I spent that much money on beer this week, or I went out to dinner that much time, right? But like I call myself out on that shit. And then I realize like, okay, here's where I have to throttle back. Here's what I have to change. And if I do that weekly, it's easier.
Definitely. So business credit versus personal credit, right?
Yep.
Why is it such a huge mistake to mix the two?
So there's a multitude of reasons. Number one, personal credit is the foundation of your credit score, okay? Both personal and business. They're not going to just give some random ass business $100,000 of 0% financing. You'll see that shit online all the time. It's not going to happen. Your business credit profile is going to be predicated on your personal credit history, okay? So the reason you want to build a thick foundation for personal credit quickly, it takes 6 months to establish a credit score. With authorized users, you can do it faster, but you should take 12 to 24 months and build a solid foundation. For the rest of your life, you'll be set and taken care of. Business credit's kind of the same thing. Here's the difference. If you're a business owner, like the guy I had a call with on the way here, he has $24,000 of credit card debt reporting on his personal credit profile because he set up his business credit card as a sole proprietor tied to a social, no EIN, and he missed a payment. So that all reports now on his personal profile. Because when I looked at it, I was like, that's a Chase card. Why is that business Chase card reporting? And then I looked, I saw it was a missed payment. And then when I asked him, I said, hey, did you set this up as an EIN or as a sole proprietor? Sole proprietor. Sole proprietor is tied to your social security number. EIN number is tied to the business. Now, even though when you take a new application, they're going to ask you for both numbers because they want to check your personal. They want to make sure you're not on tilt and that you're looking into business credit, because if you have a 680 or lower credit score, you probably won't get approved. You got to be above 680. Now, I have had people with 640s get approved for certain credit cards, but because their overall profile is good, there's just certain things that might have lowered their score. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll be denied. But business credit, you can also get bigger business lines, right? You just said yourself, and I remember when we got approved for your Chase business card, that's a much higher limit.
Yeah.
Because now they can tie it to the revenue, they can tie it to your deposits, they can see that you're not carrying a lot of debt. They'll extend a lot more to you. And that's where you can get business lines of credit. So that's where the business side is a lot better. If you're going to be in business, if you're going to have a business profile, you need to set up a business.
And also, if you have a business, like all of my trucks for the business, my car, it's all in the business name. Sometimes you might have to personally guarantee it. Yep. But that's not going to affect your credit unless you don't pay it.
It doesn't affect your personal credit unless you have any kind of default or derogatory. And that's a good thing. And that's why
it gives you more buying power. Your debt to income is better.
And you protect your personal profile, because I know a lot of business owners that are really heavy into debt.
Yeah.
But it's all in the business name.
Absolutely.
So if you look, they've got, like, Brad Lee's got an 850 credit score. Yeah. Like he showed me, because everything is in his business name. But he said he hired accountants and people that taught him this shit. I mean, he's been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
So like going back to having the conversations, whether you can find somebody you can talk to or hire somebody, take somebody out to lunch, pay for a consultant. I have made more money paying for consultants, and people are like, why would you spend that much money? I'm like, well, you dropped $200,000 on college education and you don't know jack shit.
Yeah.
You make less than six figures and you spent $200,000. I almost failed high school. I dropped out of college a year later, and I
didn't go to college, so
I'm doing quite well, right? And I'm not knocking education. People you're knocking college. I'm like,
if you know your path, it makes sense. But don't just go for art or something just because you want to go party.
Or don't spend $200,000 to do it.
I agree. There's
how many
options.
houses could you buy with $200,000 cash?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like if you know your path, or you have, like, my daughter knew her path. We knew she had to go to college. And she pretty much got a free ride, so it saved me a lot of money. I mean, I spent some money, but she has no debt, and she's making, a good living now at the hospital. My second daughter wanted nothing to do with school. She's very smart, but, she does not like school. Am I going to make her go into debt for somebody who's not going to do it? No, she picked up a trade, and she's doing great with it, and she's going to build a great business from it.
It's all that matters.
And so I tell all my kids, I said, I don't care what you do. Just be the best at it, right? Love what you do, be the best at it, and make a great living. And you can do that in any business, right? The steps are the same. You want to build a business? I can show you how. I don't care if it's a hair business, if it's a car business, construction, it doesn't matter. The steps are the same, right?
Dog walking business. That makes a lot of money and it solves a problem for somebody. I think it's awesome.
I totally agree.
I picked up dog shit. The duty crew. Going back.
That was big for a while. It was really big.
It was.
So can you break down how, credit scores affect interest rates, loan eligibility, and deal structure for real estate?
So let me start with a car example because it's easier, and then I'll get into real estate. So like, for example, you go to buy a car. Let's just say it's an average $35,000 car.
Yeah.
The difference between a 550 credit score and a 760 credit score, you will pay an additional $8,000 of interest between a 760 and a 550 credit score. $8,000 more over 5 years for the same $35,000 car just from a credit score.
Yeah.
Think about that. Now that's a $35,000 car. Imagine a $350,000 mortgage. You're going to add anywhere between $50,000 to like $110,000 of additional interest over the course of that loan. $100,000 of additional interest. Now, I always say a better credit score gets you a lower interest rate and more favorable loan conditions. Okay? It's very obvious and evident. If you have a good credit score, banks and lenders are willing to work with you. Why? Because your risk factor is lower. If you have missed payments, if you have collection debt and stuff like that, you're coming to a bank to borrow money. If I think you might not pay me back, you're damn right I'm going to make you jump through bigger loops or have higher interest rates because of the risk factor. You come to the bank with an 800 credit score, they're throwing money at you. Why? Because they know you pay your bills on time. And that goes the same for, it's much safer. Yeah. It's the same for insurance companies because I couldn't figure out the correlation between credit scores and insurance. If I don't pay my bills on time, what's the likelihood that I'm taking care of proper maintenance on my car? I'm probably not replacing my tires when I should.
Yeah.
I'm probably not doing the hot water heater or replacing my roof when I should because I'm not paying my bills on time, so I probably don't have the money to do that shit.
Yeah.
But if I do have good credit, odds are I'm probably taking care of everything else in my life. That makes the risk factor lower. Doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
But from an actuary standpoint, that's why they do that, which is really, really interesting. So buying a house, when you go to buy a house, when you come in with a 750 or an 800 credit score. Now, I'm not saying you should wait till you have a 750 credit score to buy a house. If you have a 650 credit score and you have the savings to do it, cool. Go find somebody that can educate you on how the credit system works because making money is the hardest part of life. Credit's simple and easy.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to make money is so complicated.
And you can do it on any scale.
I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Here's a funny question for you, and I think we touched on this. Do you think the economy sucks right now, or do you think the economy and the ways of making money have just changed?
I think it's changed, and I think the way we make money has changed. I don't, it's real easy if you watch the news, it's all doom and gloom, right? If you watch the news, the sky's falling, right?
Of course.
I had one of my best years last year, right?
25.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are complaining the business wasn't good, They're not making any money. If you look at real estate, a lot of agents left the business, right? They're still leaving the business. And personally, and as the brokerage and construction, it was the best year, right? Why? Everything's going to hell, right? Everything's, the inflation. And yeah, are we spending more for things? Yes. Do we have to charge more for things? Yes. But how we do business and how we brand ourselves as professionals is more important now because now people are looking for that, right? They don't want somebody who doesn't know the business. If I take a new agent in, guess what they get? They get me. They get Rick. So are they a new agent? Yes. But do they have the knowledge to back them that are willing to go out to these clients? Yes. So how you do business changes, but you have to change with the times. If you remain the same, right, it's not going to keep working.
I agree 100%. As the world is saying, like, it's harder, can't find a job, can't do this, all this other stuff. And I'll share this. This was kind of funny. I won't say the company that it was, but I was doing affiliate marketing for a company. And I was putting a name out there. Now, granted, what I do, it's easier for me to have affiliate marketing links with certain products.
Absolutely.
I was like, man, I've been referring a lot of people to this. I wonder, like, what's happening? I logged in. I didn't know. I had $7,600 of money I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
From fucking sending people to a link. And when people tell me, oh, it's too hard to find a job, I'm like, that's because you have a job mentality versus an income mentality. And an income mentality, you may have a job, maybe you create your own side hustle, or maybe you're just doing affiliate links and affiliate marketing. And I can tell you, it's the easiest $7,000 I've ever made.
I mean, you didn't even know you had it.
I didn't even know it was there. And I have another affiliate business or another affiliate setup where I know how much money I make. And it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And I laugh and I'm like, the world has just changed. I didn't have to buy a product. I didn't have to rent a store. I didn't have to build, a warehouse. I literally sent links to people that I was solving a need for them.
And the knowledge is out there.
Yeah.
More than when we were growing up.
Oh my gosh.
You had to learn from somebody, and you hope that you learned from the right person.
Encyclopedia Britannica. People are like, what the hell is that? Like,
Yeah.
that was the World Wide Web back in the day.
You have to be willing to find the information and then execute and realize that it might take you a year. It might take you 6 years. But if you consistently keep working at it, it will pay off.
I agree.
You have to be willing to do the work. And I think that's a huge problem with people. They're just not willing. They'd rather sit and talk about everybody else of why they have it or why it worked versus just put your friggin' boots on and go to work.
Obviously, this is a conversation for another day, but this is one of those situations where I feel like when we post a message or promote a message, like, we're going to take from you because you're doing well, you should do more. And it's like, nah, motherfucker, because while you were sitting watching the game, I was working. When you were sleeping, I was working. When things got tough, I still worked, right? Like,
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How many fantasy football leagues are you in?
None.
How many am I in?
I would guess 0.
0.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many baseball, basketball games am I watching? Next to 0, unless my son's playing. I got too many other things going on. Now, I have season tickets to the Eagles. It's much easier to follow that season versus being involved in every game that's played in the city and then being in leagues. And I don't fault anybody for doing it.
I was going to say, I'm sure you don't care if somebody's in one or two.
If that's your thing, you want to play fantasy, anything, go ahead. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
But
if your bills are taken care of,
yeah,
and that's what you want to do, like, I like to play golf. I'd rather spend money playing golf.
Everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah, agreed.
Right? But for me, my hobby is going to be something that can pay me.
Me too.
And some may call it work, but to me, it's not all work, right? And I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm in 3 leagues and I'm in the lead. And I'm like, that's great. I don't even understand it, to be honest with you. And that's fine. To each his own. I'll never fault anybody for doing what makes them happy. But also, if you're doing what makes you happy and you can't pay your bills, maybe there's a problem.
Isn't it funny that people don't think anything about paying athletes millions of dollars to play basketball, baseball, football? Yeah. They'll pay thousands of dollars to go to a fucking concert, but they'll tell the local business owner, you make a lot of money, you should help pay the community. Yeah. Isn't that wild?
It is.
Very fucking wild.
Definitely.
Isn't it also really wild that we'll pay athletes millions and millions of dollars to play basketball or hockey or football, but the guy that gets knocked out and the fucking medical professionals that run on the field to save that person's life, we make them pay $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 to get educated on that shit.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking wild?
Well, that whole education thing, some of the classes that my daughter had to take just to get a credit, to have enough credits, it's all money. It has nothing to do with the education. She had the education that she needed, but she had to take some class that meant nothing, had nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. It's just time and money, right? How do we turn it into a business that we can charge the most for, right? It's, but that's pretty much everything, right? Everything is, how can they make more, right?
Sure.
And that's okay. That's the model. That's fine. Would you say that, let's say, somebody's in debt, can they simultaneously aggressively pay it off and build credit at the same time?
Absolutely. So paying off the debt is what helps to build the credit, because what a lot of people do is they'll go to these debt relief companies, and the debt relief companies will say, Tim, you sit back and relax. Don't pay your bills for 3 months. Then we're going to negotiate all your debts, and we're going to help wipe out half that debt for you. So what happens? Now you have 9 accounts with 3 late payments. So you got 36 late payments on your credit profile. Now you're really fucked because you really have nowhere to go. I tell people, just close the account yourself, but talk to them and say, listen, I need to close this account. Here's where I'm at financially. You have 2 choices. I can go bankrupt and try to get everything wiped away, or we can work on a settlement. And as long as they close the account, but you don't have 3 months of late payments, you're in way better shape. And I can help you rebuild from that 10 times faster.
Yeah.
If you have 3 months of missed payments, which is what these debt relief companies all say, you're screwed. And it's happened. When I tell you, I have family members that didn't talk to me, and I didn't know why. Because what happened was they got into that situation. They went to a debt relief company. They told them, stop paying your bills. We're going to raise that debt. And guess what happened? Now I can't help them. Because I can help them. I just can't help them quickly. It's a long process to rebuild.
Gotcha. So credit repair versus credit building, what's the difference?
Credit repairs, I'm going to give you a fish, Tim, and you sit back and relax, and I'm going to handle everything for you. Credit repairs, Tim, I'm going to sell you this fishing rod. I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to teach you how to fish for yourself and for your family for the rest of your life. So let's roll up our sleeves, because I'm going to have to dive into your profile and get dirty and ugly for a little while. And then I'm going to tell you, hey, here's the plan. When you first started doing jujitsu, did it suck getting your ass kicked? Did you get stronger? Did you get quicker? Did you get smarter? Cool. I'm going to teach you the same thing with your basic economics, your basic finances, your basic credit profile, so that we can make you survive, so that if I get hit by the bus next year, you don't fucking need me anymore.
That's good stuff. So the fastest wins. What could someone do this week to move the needle?
So my 2 biggest wins that I know of, I have 3 biggest wins really. 102 points in 9 days, 200 points in 65 to 70 days, and then 300 points in about a year and a half. The fastest way to boost your score is to look at your utilization, because utilization is the fastest way to boost your score. That's how I did 102 points in 9 days. Business owner, maxed out credit card, paid it off in full every month, but reported high usage. I said, this card's going to report in 4 days. Can you pay this card off right now today? He did. 9 days. 9 days later, I got a WTF text message. I'm like, oh, fuck, what happened? Right? Like, you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Boom, 102 points in 9 days. And as soon as he sent it, he called me immediately. I'm like, this is Ryan. He goes, motherfucker, you were right. And I was like, what, do you think I was lying to you? He goes, nobody else could solve that problem for me. He says, you did it for me in 1 day.
Yeah.
That's power, because of ship's broken. Guy comes around. He's looking, takes the hammer, knocks on the thing, engine fires up, $10,000. He goes, it took you 2 minutes to figure it out. He says, it was 10 years for me to understand where to knock on that motor.
Yeah.
That's the power of understanding what I do. And that's why it's experience. So the difference between credit repair and credit building is that the fastest thing you can do is know, okay, where are my problems? And if you don't know where those problems are, you have to be able to identify them. It's like those savants you hand them the most fucked up Rubik's Cube in the world. They'll close their eyes, they look at it, study it, close their eyes, and in a minute or 30 seconds, it's done.
Yeah.
I look at credit profiles like a Rubik's Cube. How fucked up is it? What are the resources I have to work with it? Then let's map out the plan to do it. But no matter what I teach you, no matter what I say to you, no matter what I show you, if you don't do the work and you don't implement the daily discipline, it may not work.
Definitely. No, and that's anything. If you're going to ask for the advice and you're going to listen, if you don't execute on it, it's pointless. You just wasted their own time, your time, and I guess if they're paying for it, they could do whatever they want with the information. But you'd like to see everybody execute and better themselves.
I think it's like 70% of the online courses bought, nobody does anything with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how a lot of these...
Or they start it one day and don't do anything else.
Well, that's how a lot of these gurus, make a lot of money.
I'm guilty. Yeah. I bought a $6,000 course. I opened it day one. Baby, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But I paid for it. It was money that I had made and that I had allocated. It wasn't like I spent $6,000 gambling on football bets.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I still learned a lot of stuff, which I've implemented from that course or from that person. I just bought their course so that I can learn more faster. I got sidetracked.
Yeah. That happens.
My own fault.
Yeah. I'm guilty of, buying things and maybe not utilizing them sometimes, but we get sidetracked and other things are going on, and that's just the way it goes. So what's next for you in I Teach Credit?
So this is great because I wanted to end with this question for you, and I'm going to still ask for you to end with yours. But so I have, you mentioned earlier about a dream and like a goal and where you want to go. And so here's where ITC is going to go. And I don't know if it's going to happen for 2027. I kind of think my 10-year anniversary, 2028, the goal is I'm going to build the company large enough. I've done so much traveling in the last 3 to 4 years, okay? I was in 8 countries. In 2022, the year I got married, I was in 8 different countries. I was in Aruba, Bermuda, Spain, France, Italy, Germany. I was in all these different places, and it was fucking amazing.
Sounds amazing.
But I've realized that there's so many parts of the United States that I haven't seen. And so my plan is I'm going to buy an RV. I'm going to get a dog and I'm going to travel the country.
Is this RV going to be wrapped?
Probably.
Okay.
But I don't know because there's some crazy fucking people that know I got a lot of credit cards in my pocket. I want to buy an RV and I'm going to go and I'm going to meet up with all the local communities and I'm going to teach for free. So I can say, hey, I may be able to have the fucking shiny Amex cards, but let me come back to the grassroots and say, I remember what it was like getting started, not knowing where to go. The number of people that join my lives every morning, people pay me that don't need to pay me. They're there for the camaraderie. They pay the $20 a month just to be part of the club.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to go to be local and to listen to their stories and say, hey, it's okay. I was there too. Or, hey, it's okay. There's 111 million people in the country that need help just like you. I want to be that beacon of light to say we can do this together.
So that's your goal maybe in 2028 to do.
2028, right? I want to buy an RV and start traveling the country.
But we're in 2026 now.
Yep.
We have 2027 to go.
Yep.
Where would you like to see I Teach Credit go in these next couple of years?
So, funny you say that. I have a conversation with my accountant tomorrow, Fred Hess. I think ITC is going to diversify outside of ITC, which is just I Teach Credit. I'll share that off the record.
Okay.
Because it's going to be pretty cool. And I think it's going to, we're going to take what I've been able to do with credit and making money talks easy again. We're going to expand it so that people can live better and do a lot more. And it's going to be really, really fun. So maybe on our second podcast together, we'll be able to share that.
I think it would be amazing if it became a course for schools in some way. If I Teach Credit was almost a subcontractor in a way to where it could be taught in all schools, right? Like I think it's so important. And I just think it's information that unless your parents, or the people closest to you, looked at credit as important as I always have, I think people just put themselves in debt and it starts at their first credit card and they're already a 480.
You have no idea how many 19 and 20-year-olds have $500,000, $2,000 of credit card debt.
Yeah.
With no guidance. And they're already closed accounts with compounded interest. The funny thing is people look to schools. Fuck that. You're a parent. That shit starts at home.
I agree.
That shit starts at home.
And I teach it, but I'm talking about the people that may not have, it's easy to say the parents, right? But maybe those parents didn't have the right parents or didn't seek the information. And so they can't teach the kids.
So that's why every single morning I teach for 30 minutes to an hour for free on TikTok. And then I migrate that from TikTok right to my SKOOL, my school community.
Yeah.
For $20 a month. And your first 7 days are free. When I tell you, I have 18-year-old kids that are in the community and they're like, I saw how my parents lived and I don't want to live like that. I see how my parents are living. I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody say to me on TikTok, if you don't have a master's in finance or business, why am I listening to you? And I laughed at him. I said, because I don't have $200,000 of student loan debt, but I got $250,000 of personal credit. I got over $1 million of business credit, and I have zero credit card debt. The only debt I have is a 3.5% mortgage payment. I've got a 1.9% auto payment, and I have one personal loan that we did stuff to the house and whatever. So I did a small loan for that.
Well, it comes down to, do you trust the professor that's never done it, but can teach it, or do you trust the person that's actually living and doing it and teaching it?
Fuck yeah.
In real time? And that's always been an argument. I've seen it, on a lot of, videos where people would question people. Well, you don't have a degree in this. Well, you don't have a degree in that. But I'm real living proof.
See, that's a funny thing you say that is because I just taught in Bernathen School, Bernathen to the seniors in Bernathen High School. And I went in the first time the guy's like, why should, what's your thing? I'm like, this is what I'm going to teach you. Let's have a conversation about it. In that conversation, he was blown away because he knew a lot of stuff, but there was a lot of stuff he didn't know. He's like, this isn't even in the curriculum. So then he had me come back in and teach it again. Same thing happened at Ben Salem. I went to Ben Salem High School it's like life something day or whatever it is, where they give them like a salary and then you have to go figure out life, right? The economics professors or the finance professors were like, whoa, what are you teaching? And I was like, well, this is how this works. This is how this works. And they're like, would you come in? I spoke to 200 students at Ben Salem. and they recorded it. One of the coolest parts about it was the girl running the camera, she calls her dad and said, Dad, this guy's on, at school. He's teaching all this stuff. It's really, really cool. You should probably follow him. He goes, what's his name? Ryan Alexander. That's my boy. I play hockey with him. It was that cool. It was cool as shit.
That's awesome.
And then I had my buddy, Dan Bell. He does like all the valet parking for like the city of Philadelphia. He's got a huge company. Awesome. Actually, funny story about him. But he called me because I got a funny story to tell you. The same day Bill Lodge called me to say somebody was talking about you. He calls up. He says, I want you to know. He says, I went to the store, gave my kid a credit card so he can go into Wawa, whatever, buy something. Came out, says, Dad, you should give me this card. And he's like, I don't think so. Why do you think so? He says, well, you should make me an authorized user because that way you can help build my credit. And he goes, he's 12 years old. He goes, where the hell did you learn that? He goes, well, there's this guy on TikTok I follow. And he goes, show me him. Boom, it's me. So that's the cool power. Like kids, you are blown away at how much kids really want to learn. And some kids really don't care because if they've been taught, like, hey, you should just be given all the shit. That's one kid's mentality. But other kids are like, no, I want to be able to have this and do that. And how do I get it? That's where I want to take I Teach Credit. I want to build to that level. I want to build it big enough so that I can make enough money from people that can afford time and speed. And then I can go back and dedicate my time, the 80-20, back to the people that really need it. And maybe it's reversed. Maybe 80% of my time is to the people that can't afford it. And the 20% is for the people that are willing to pay for time and willing to pay for speed. And they're going to get way more value. Like almost every single person that hires me within 3 months are like, I didn't pay you enough.
Yeah.
I'm open for more invoices. You want me to give you another one?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like the value is always there.
Well, I think that's an awesome goal. And you let me know where you're going. Maybe I'll hitch a ride and we'll go somewhere together. I know where to reach you. Obviously, I can always give you a call. But for the people listening, where can they find you?
So the best thing to do is just search I Teach Credit. Every single thing I have is branded with the same logo. The best thing I would tell you is to learn. If you really want to learn, you want 7 days of free access. Just do a simple Google search, SKOOL, I Teach Credit. It's the school platform. You'll find I Teach Credit. Currently, I have like 1,300 members, and it's growing. But just go there. Your first 7 days are free. You got to pony up and put a card in. I'm just telling people up front. Your first 7 days are free. After that, it's $20 a month. And if you send people there, the $20 I collect, if you send them to me, I pay you 40% of it.
That's awesome.
It's me giving back to say, hey, thanks. It's automatic. I have people saying, I don't want it. I can't control it. I don't care. It's set up that way. I want people to help. It's been awesome. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. TikTok is the platform that put me in front of people. That's where the majority of my content goes. I'm now starting to do more on YouTube and even on LinkedIn because I need to start going after more business owners.
Awesome. Well, I can tell everybody from experience, he's the real deal. If you're looking for business credit or looking how to utilize your credit cards, there's no one better than Ryan. I'm happy to call you a friend. And I'm happy that you were able to come in and we were able to have this great discussion. And I look forward to doing it in the future.
A lot more people we're going to help, man.
Absolutely, man.
Cheers, brother.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate being on here.
Yep.